Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Chiefs Digest live Q&A here on Tuesday nights. And I know Luttrell is already here with hooray, hooray, it is Q&A day. It is Tuesday, time for the Q&A. We're going to see if we can't set some records tonight as far as just efficiency goes. I'm focused. I'm going to try and press Nick so that when Nick Jacobs comes in here, he is not mocking me for answering questions that were asked an hour earlier. I was talking to Andrew, who comes in here from time to time, as you all may know, as also the young man who mows my yard. He was also giving me a hard time for the long, lengthy Q&As. And also thinking, and I would like some feedback from everybody who is in here tonight. And if you're watching later on a replay, I am considering going to 2 nights a week and doing a shorter Q&A, one on Tuesdays, possibly one on Thursdays, although I'm open to other suggestions as far as time frame goes and timelines. Would like to try and find hey, there's a time that works great that people would like and request. Maybe we can try out some different times for the second Q&A to see when different people can join in. Obviously for me, Tuesdays nights and weeknights in general are a pretty good time, but would love to be able to get more people involved with the show. And I know so obviously some folks can't join on Tuesdays. I know there's a lot of other shows on Tuesdays that you might want to be partaking of, although I hope that this is always your first stop. But would love to get some feedback from all of you if we did break up the show into 2 nights, 2 separate episodes each week for the Q&A. What would you enjoy? Sharing 2 per week rather than one long one is a great idea. Tuesday, Thursday, she's jumping on board with that one. So we'll consider that the early clubhouse leader. That's where I am leaning. And unless anybody, well, and Chris has a good question. Will the second Q&A include commentary on the Thursday night game? If the second Q&A will be on Thursday, hadn't really thought about getting in the way of Thursday night football. Although Thursday night football is always so bad, but I bet you we could have it on in the background and keep an eye on things. Although don't want to get run afoul too much of the NFL rules. Maybe a little earlier on Thursday evening, so maybe it's before the game. That's something to consider. I'm open to any ideas and suggestions. I'm not set in stone at 7 o'clock, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays we can change things up. Obviously, probably would stick with Tuesday nights because that is a good night for Nick. Love to be able to have him come into the show. And if I have a shorter show, maybe it's a little bit less of a demand on Nick because I'd love for him to be able to be as much a part of this as much as possible. We're always going to have 41 is the mic on Sundays, so getting into a Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday rhythm might work out pretty well for us. I know for Steven Demon said had to get in there. You figured Nick only has the one night off. If there's a second night, you might get me solo most of the time. I might be able to bring in a guest periodically too, maybe on the second night of the week. Mark weighing in on 2 per week too. So this may be something we'll definitely go for. I know 2 hours, which during camp has kind of turned into 2.5 at times, and it's coming to 2.5 when we get into some busy schedules. There's a lot of things going on, or if I just talk too much answering one question for 15 minutes, that can be a problem. But would love to do that also for Jesus and some others who have asked. Before the beginning of the season, we are going to start putting the Q&As on to an audio podcast. So if you can't join them on YouTube or Twitter, you'll be able to take them on the go with you a little bit easier. So there will be a podcast stream. I know I've been promising that for a while, but with this move, we're going to be able to make it a little bit easier, a little bit. And there's we're finalizing some other things that are going on at Chiefs Digest. They're going to make things a little bit easier for me, and a little bit more streamlined. So hopefully that will mean more content, more opportunities for us all to interact and get together. So let's see what happens. Like I said, I will go into the comments, and here I am already scrolling forward. Doctor Who volunteering to be a guest. Appreciate that, Doctor Who. Never know who I might be able to round up. I have friends in powerful places. Actually, I don't, but I'd love to be able to get some different people involved if we can. So if there's anybody you'd like to hear from and locally, love to have get some Chiefs takes from. Maybe we can do that too and have some suggestions. I can reach out to some people. Who knows? I'm a blank slate on this. I've been thinking about going to 2 episodes a week just because the 2-hour live stream is a little bit of a lift, especially. I know you all love the behind the scenes, how the sausage gets made in a typical football week. Tuesday is kind of the off day, at least when the Chiefs play on a Sunday. Tuesday is kind of an off day, one day where the team doesn't usually have anything scheduled. So I end up doing a lot of my media appearances. So, I know a lot of you watch Locked On Chiefs. I record that on Tuesdays. I'm almost Soren Petro this season on Tuesday afternoons at 3:00. Been starting during training camp. That's going to be going on during the regular season as well. For those of you who are in Wichita, Kansas region, on ESPN Wichita, 2:30 on Tuesday. So I've got like all these things that I do on Tuesdays, media-wise anyway. By the time that the Q&A gets done on Tuesday, I don't have time to take out the trash for Wednesday morning. So let's face it, we're trying to figure all of how to make things easier for me. There's Sharon. Sharon, big fan of Charles Goldman. There you go. Looks like that. Hey, Charles, we could talk to Charles about that. Great example. Albert, start with Nick at 8 p.m. if he can stay for an hour and go longer if necessary. I'll do whatever it takes to get Nick to be able to have time to spend as long as possible with us and still get high V fines. Let's face it, that's the ultimate thing. Yeah, Steam and Demon's trying to spend my money here. Getting other people, to join the show. KCSN also has people I'd love to work with, so that's part of my other problem there. And so, appreciate everything, all the comments. Whatever you got, I'll listen to it. So, like I said, nothing's in stone right now. Probably wouldn't make any official changes until probably right before the beginning of the season. That might be maybe the week before. Still trying to figure out, because usually what I do is a live stream on roster cutdown day. That might get affected a little bit because I'm going to be talking to Soren Petro on 3:00 on the cutdown day on the 26th, it looks like. So I might be doing a live stream right after that where we can break down. By that point, we should have all the roster moves. We should have the 53 in place. Doctor Who, you are on a roll tonight. That probably will not be a guest of ours. So very well done. Nate, good friend of the program and over at ESPN now. I bet you Nate would come on for a Q&A once in a while. I bet you we could do that. So some great Seth Kaiser, Sharon. Yes, Seth is another good friend of the program. I'm open to I would love to get some of the other folks in the Chiefs media and everything like that to maybe have a discussion and just talk about things and answer your questions and see if I can rope them into it. So looking for some suggestions, any ideas that you got. And like I said, if you're listening to this later, feel free to put it into the comment section. Truly appreciate all the feedback. I don't have a ton of, I think, commentary or monologue other than that to start the program. Chiefs are in pretty good shape. Only 4 players who were out today on the injured side of things. Jalen Watson still in the concussion protocol, but he did come down to practice today. Even watching from the sideline for anybody who's in the concussion protocol is a good step. There's still the phases that they have to go through before the return to play. I would anticipate with just one more practice that I don't see any reason to push it. Don't think you'll probably see Jalen Watson on in the game on Friday night. No big deal. It's preseason, and that may be done it for Jalen Watson. I mean, they could get him into the third preseason game just to knock some rust off. Obviously, he played Saturday night too, so no big deal there. Doesn't seem like there's going to be any issues for him to be ready before the beginning of the season. Oh, Jason Dunn, Night Hunter, like that. There's some definitely, I would love to be able to get some former Chiefs on the show. I have a dream. Mitch Schwartz would be one that I would love to be able to have if he'd be willing to come on the Q&A one night. Mitch is just one of the smartest football players I've ever spoken to or met. So he'd be a dream. There's some others I'd like to get. And if we could get him in for a Q&A where you could ask him questions as well, that would be a lot of fun. So in addition to Jalen Watson, Hollywood Brown was at practice today, still working out on the side. That's at least another good sign. Andy Reid, told us yesterday that he is making progress. He's this close. Once again, not working today. I would bet that he will not play in the preseason game on Friday. Once again, maybe he gets into the final third preseason game, even though I doubt the starters at all will play in that game, but maybe you get Hollywood out there for just a few reps. I could also see the Chiefs just going ahead and having him shut down until the regular season. So he's a veteran. It's not critical. We see this all the time, that veterans that don't get into the preseason. So I don't think it's absolutely necessary. Andy Reid did clarify that it's not a high ankle sprain. He did mention that it was a little bit more ankle foot involvement without still being super specific about the nature of the injury. But being told that it's not a high ankle sprain, frankly, was good news to me. And certainly at least had a positive spin on it from Andy Reid. Jake Breeningstool, the tight end, still sidelined with the hamstring. That's been a while now. So and we did see him a little bit today working without the compression sleeve on the sideline. So that's at least a minor step forward. We'll see if that's a significant step forward towards his availability. Again, you're not going to see him on Saturday night. And there's 4 players. Why am I blanking on the 4th player? I've been doing this all day. We got Jake Breeningstool. We've got Hollywood Brown. Oh, and Ethan Driscoll coming back from the appendectomy. So he's still sidelined. Don't know if that's... Hey, we've seen it. Appendectomy is honestly, depending on the nature of it, we've seen that, be able to sideline guys for several weeks. So does that become something that will affect the beginning of the season? Could he even be, depending on the counts, the possible, start the season on injured reserve, but designated to return? Who knows? Just something to consider. But honestly, from an injury standpoint, the Chiefs have just 4 guys on the sidelines right now. During training camp, that feels like a record to me. So that is a really good case. So I'll bring this up from Steeman just because it is an injury question that he had. Cam Jones went down. He looked like he was in a lot of pain, but he later came back into the game and has been practicing the last couple of days. So Cam Jones in the clear, so not banged up there. Jeff Bossa also briefly left the game on Saturday, came back in. So like I said, those 4 guys that I mentioned, everybody else is practicing right now. Drew Tranquil has been practicing with that back injury, has not been in team periods. So he's just been going through individual combo drills, a little 7-on-7, but hasn't been in team periods yet. So they're bringing him back a little bit slowly. So like I said, Nick will be here later to answer your questions. So we'll dive into it. And I'm going to try and go lightning round all night long in my head. So I'm going to try not to have like 15-minute answers. I want everybody to get their questions answered, hopefully within like at least a 15-minute window of them asking the questions. So let's see how this goes, if I can keep it concise and Nick doesn't come in here and chastise me later like he absolutely should. I think Jimmy's has got the first question. Albert even had the first comment. Reminder from Nick to be efficient. See, Albert, I'm trying. I'm dedicated to it. Let's see what happens. All right, Jimmy's. That was a swell lineup for Q&A at camp today with staff and coaching minions. Who is your favorite to listen to? Ooh. Um, there's a couple. I mean, I will say this in my best Eric Bieniemy voice. Um, Dave Merritt, I could listen to Dave. I could talk football with Dave Merritt all day long. If he did like an audio book about football, I'd listen to that all day long. He just got a great voice. But Dave Merritt's just a fun dude. He's so serious. He's so, I mean, he's serious. He answers, and I want to say, I mean, he answers questions seriously. He answers with sincerity. But he's also funny. I don't care how many times I hear the guys are swimming that they're dory out there on the field. I just love it. It's I also tells me exactly what age his kids are. You know that they clearly watched Finding Nemo and everything an extended period of time during their children for him to have Dory completely stuck in his head. But love the references. Yeah, Dave Merritt's just one of the best. I love the guys honestly who just tell it like it is. Joe Cullen does that. Joe Cullen's pretty straightforward, cuts to it kind of guy. There's none of the coaches that I have any real problems listening to or anything like that. Definitely have. I won't lie. I definitely have some favorites, and Dave Merritt's one of them. Joe Cullen's one. We did not hear from Brendan Daly today. Brendan's another one of my favorites. I think Connor Embry I thought was really refreshing today. That was we didn't hear from much from Connor last year, and he took a lot of heat a couple of years ago, and I'm not sure he got as much credit last year for helping the Chiefs wide receiver room kind of bounce back. But I thought Connor was really refreshing today, really straightforward with some of his answers and some of his thoughts. Joe Blameyer's a really smart guy too. He's fun. He was one of the guys we talked to today. I'm trying to think if there's anybody. There's other guys on down the list that I wish you guys got to hear from and talk to, because Mike Frazier, who's a statistical guy, we only get to talk to at the Super Bowl, and I always love talking to Mike at the Super Bowl. He's great, and I'm glad we're now, because Chris Shea and Mike Bradway are assistant GMs, that we get to hear from them on a semi-regular basis, because those are also two great, smart football guys. Love talking ball with them. They're great. So. But on the coaching staff, Dave Merritt, Joe Cullen, Brendan Daly, those are probably my three favorites that I could have on every assistant day. Sharon, yes. Also moving day. Yes. Interested in learning who Matt and Nick think will move. I'll come in and maybe I'll probably try to bring that up with Nick later, Sharon. Honestly, this was like maybe one of the least active moving days I remember in a while, because normally after that first preseason game, you see some dramatic movement on the depth charts. You'll see some maybe guys who've been getting work with the ones all of a sudden just kind of disappear. You'll see some guys who are getting some work with the threes that all of a sudden, hey, maybe they jump from not just the twos, but maybe they're getting some looks with the ones. And honestly, I mean, usually when you see big movements on moving day, there's a couple of reasons why. It's because somebody that looked really good in camp had a really bad first preseason game. And then there's some guys who are maybe down on the threes that had a really good game. And I think it was just a kind of a lack of both of those things. There wasn't anybody with the ones that I thought absolutely had a terrible game. I'm assuming, have not seen, I'm going through the comments here yet, but I'm going through just the experience on social media for the last few days. There'll probably be some folks who said Najee Johnson had a bad day, and I think it was more that Najee had some bad plays, but there was no room, there was no movement whatsoever for Najee, and some of that obviously is that Christian Fulton's still not out there on team periods. He's just working 7-on-7. Jalen Watson's out with the concussion, so it was kind of Najee a little bit by default. Noel Williams benefited from having a good game and moving up. The Chiefs defense, first team defense, opened in the dime package today, and Noel Williams was out there with Najee and Trent McDuffie. So I think that shows you a little bit of faith that the Chiefs do have in Noel Williams and him coming up. Chris Roland-Wallace obviously had a great game the other night. Chris Roland-Wallace is already on the 53 in my book, and now he just punched the ticket even further. But I didn't feel like there was anybody that just absolutely flailed and therefore cost themselves and moved them down a little bit. Now, for players that have seen from the last couple of days that look like that they're getting more of a look and they've moved up the depth chart a little bit. Isapole, offensive tackle, had been running with the threes. He was back up with the twos at left tackle. Kind of I don't know if it's anything reflective of necessarily CJ Hansen's play, but he was kind of bumped down with the threes a little bit today. Because Chu Godric, has been running with the twos quite a bit, and he'd been at tackle. He'd been at right tackle with Wanye Morris on the left side. Last couple of days, it's mostly been Esapole at left tackle with the twos, Wanye at right tackle, Chu Godric at right guard. That's kind of kicked CJ Hansen back to the threes. CJ's gotten a lot of looks, and so I think he's certainly still in the mix, but I'm really intrigued about this Chu Godric experiment because Andy Reid both spoke pretty highly of him this week. Chu has been he's an international player. This is his third year in Kansas City, and he's always had an interesting skill set. It's just that he has no experience with football. Really seems like things might be starting to click. I don't know if he's going to make the 53 or not, but he's been a really compelling story in training camp, and I'm intrigued to see what happens and where he's going to fit in. I think at wide receiver, the most interesting thing, there was a gain in reps with the ones to my count and viewpoint for Nico Remigio, a little bit of a drop back for Jason Brownlee. And I think that's more connected to the fact that I of what happened in that preseason game. I think more solidified Nico's position as a return specialist. And if that's going to be the case, then he needs to play offense more. And, is Jason Brownlee now going to be, I was asked today about comparing him to Amir Smith-Marset, who, remember, was one of those receivers last year that was in the fight. I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah, it starts to run together. But was in the roster position battle. I think it was last year for one of the last wide receiver spots. Ended up getting traded to Carolina. Could Brownlee be one of those guys that's getting showcased a little bit now? Maybe because Tyquan Thornton, I think, is making this roster. I think he's going to be one of their top 6 receivers. Brownlee is still in that mix. Sky Moore is still in that mix. There's still 2 more preseason games, so a lot can still happen. Nothing is set in stone yet, so there's still some things. On the defensive side, certainly a little bit more movement for rookies like Jeff Bossa and Noel Williams. These are players who are going to make the roster. Right now, I don't think any of the 7 draft picks are in danger of not making this roster. I think they will. The most, I think, notable, and this was particularly notable during 9-on-7 today, Marlon Tuipulotu was getting some more reps up with the ones and a little bit more with the twos. He might be one of those guys that you would say was a big gainer from the preseason game and now is getting an opportunity to back that up. Maybe down below the radar a little bit. I put this guy's name on your radar last week. I'm going to keep it on there. Glendon Miller, safety. I don't know if he's going to make the roster or not. I mean, he's making a bid, but for that last spot, that maybe 10th defensive back, I think you're talking about Josh Williams, Mike Edwards, Glendon Miller is kind of maybe the sleeper on the outside coming in. There's a few names, but honestly, yeah, Sharon, there was not a lot of movement this week, and I was kind of surprised by that. So don't expect to see a lot of movement on Wednesday. It's scheduled on Wednesday to be an hour and 50-minute practice. We'll see if it goes that long because it's the last day of camp, and they're usually tearing down camp as the end of practice goes along. If all of you tomorrow morning want to play closing time, who's that by? I can't remember. That's the song that they always play to drive out training camp. And, it's funny. I think it's a really dark song. I don't think it's really supposed to be about closing time, but I think there's a metaphor there that they're just not they're kind of missing out on. But, Chris, will Ethan Driscoll now be stashed on IR for the season? I think it's worth figuring out to see what's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be a stash or not, depending on how long this appendectomy is going to be keeping him out. We know that there have been some guys who have had an appendectomy who I think Alex Smith, had an appendectomy and missed about 3.5 hours of practice. Was about it. There's been some other guys that have had an appendectomy and have missed several weeks. So I don't know. I haven't gotten a read yet on what is going to happen to Ethan Driscoll. There are obviously a couple of options. I mean, if you put him on IR right now, he's out for the season. If you wait until the cut down to 53, remember this year you do get 2 players that you can put on IR and designate for return later. So there's options there, just depending on how much time he's going to miss. And maybe that's a factor because I did not think that Ethan Driscoll looked like he had taken a huge step from last year. Other guys like Esapole, I think, have moved ahead of him. Esapole is kind of the Ethan Driscoll of 2025. So do you have room for both of those guys on the 53? Might be kind of tough. That last offensive line position rather, and whether or not the Chiefs are going to keep 9 or 10, there's a few different names in there, and Driscoll you'd have to include in that, but right now I think he'd be on the outside. So hey Chris, if there's an opportunity to try to squeeze him onto IR, or this is an illness, so maybe a non-football illness list designation for him, could be. If that's a way to, free some time, let him get healthy for the season, there's an opportunity there. It might be worth it for the Chiefs and for the kid. Chris, I'm going to star your next one since you asked for Nick too. So when Nick will be in here shortly, and so we'll ask him this question because you might get a different answer from the both of us. Although I think we both have maybe about 3 names in mind that might fit there. Perry, did Simmons' performance last week change your expectations for him this season? Not for me, Perry. I mean, I think I got same expectations at this point. I mean, going into the game, I expected that he's going to be your starter in week 1, and I think he's probably going to play pretty well. I still think that if he plays this season and plays a full season and plays well, I think you should be really excited about 2026 because I think he's going to be a better player down the road. And there are a lot of people who know what they're talking about, who watch him play and say he's just fine right now. So I still say, hey, try not to put too much pressure on the kid. Don't expect too much. There's going to be rookie mistakes. I don't know that we saw necessarily any big ones the other night, limited number of snaps. Was there perfect communication between him and Kingsley? I don't know if any, hey, Kingsley had a couple of hiccups. Were those related to communication or were those just one-on-one issues? Hard to tell. But I think if you just isolate Josh Simmons and what he looked like, yeah, I mean, I think he showed you what you wanted to see to feel good about him starting in week 1 and being somebody who can help you out. I don't know about his consistency yet. 11 snaps isn't going to tell you that. You're going to learn more down the road. So, and probably even this week when he plays a little bit more, I'm assuming the starters may get into at least the late, if not early second quarter. So let's see what happens. But no, I mean, I had good expectations for Simmons going into that game, Perry, and they were met. So I've got no problems there. All right, everybody. Our good friend Nick Jacobs is in the house. Nick.
Finally, Tuesday has arrived.
Tuesday has arrived.
Great philosopher or philosophizer.
Philosophizer?
You want to do it? Luttrell would say, hooray, hooray. It's Q&A day.
It is Q&A day, which Luttrell absolutely did say.
That's his trademark.
And
once that bat signal goes up like that, that's when we know it is Q&A day.
The first comment tonight, Nick, was from Albert. Reminder from Nick to be efficient. And I have tried so far. I've tried.
Is Albert trying to inspire me to be efficient? Because if he is, I'll do even better.
I think it was just entirely about me being efficient. So.
Brian. I just got to tell him in the comment section, Brian, I know you don't like Andy Heck. I get that. But you can't make every comment in every video that we do about Andy Heck.
Brian can. He knows how to.
There begins a part where like the restraining order may be filed by that Heck family at some point. Oh heck.
Nick, anything on your mind tonight?
No, I am here.
You have a clean slate.
Yeah, I am. I am a blank canvas. Throw your questions at me, and we'll see how agitated I can get over the
Well,
next hour.
let's just be efficient and get straight into it. I'll start
Bam,
with
bam, bam,
I'll start
bam.
I'll start with the one that I just wrapped up to get your take because
All right.
everybody wants to know about Josh Simmons. Perry was asking, did Simmons' performance last week change your expectations for this season?
No, Perry. Here's why. Matt and I have got to watch a lot of OTAs and minicamp before training camp. Then we got to see him in shoulder pads. And Matt, I think how many days was it? 17. Tomorrow will be 17 up at camp.
Number 17. Yep.
So I have thankfully not been to every single one of them.
I've unfortunately been to every single one of them.
I think I've been to. I think tomorrow will be number 13.
It's a lot, though. It's still a lot.
I don't know. I'm not great with numbers. It's either 12 or 13 tomorrow. I'll have to count it up. But anyways, yeah. No, I mean, look, Simmons. He's going to be the starting left tackle. So what he did or didn't do doesn't change where I feel he's at. He's the starting left tackle, and we'll just continue to see how that knee holds up as the year goes along. And if he makes it through the year, they're like, okay, he's in a good spot. And then, you just kind of go into next year. But right now, just like I was a blank canvas coming into this Q&A, Josh Simmons is a blank canvas of what he can be in the NFL. But from an athletic perspective, you already saw it before the pads came on where he was at athletically. Like, it was pretty clear. Like, he's better than Eric Fisher. And I'm not kidding. He's just got some things he's got to tweak technique-wise, and when he does, the sky's the limit on what he can be.
There you go. And effort to be efficient, just go on to Chris. And I saved this one because you asked for both of us, Nick. Your surprise cut right now from the roster. And I was asked this the other night on the Sunday Sound Off, and you were not asked. So now I get to ask you. Who is your surprise cut from the roster if you had to make cuts today?
I think the people that are I think the people that are on the bubble right now. Wanya Morris, I feel like, is on the bubble, and I'm trying to shop him if I'm the Chiefs. I'm seeing if anybody be interested in Nico Remigio right now. I understand people love him as a punt and kick returner and everything, but I'm personally like, hey, I'm cool if you just catch the football, wave your hands, and give the ball to Mahomes. Personally, that's where I'm at.
Nico's the only guy you got that can do that. Well, and Trent McDuffie. Are you going to send Trent McDuffie out there to catch punts?
That can catch punts, Matt. That can catch them.
Yes.
Guys yesterday this morning, I can't remember, but they were literally catching multiple punts and holding the other one in their hands, Matt.
Well, that's without the lights on, Nick.
Okay. I know Nico Remigio is a passion project of yours. Totally get it. I know he's one of the many fan clubs you have open, even though people are trying to take your Robert Tonyan fan club, trying to stake claim to something you would already
plenty of room on the Robert Tonyan bandwagon.
Yeah, but they're trying to declare themselves the presidents, Matt.
Well, it's a big country.
Okay.
And honestly, as excited as Travis Kelce was last week when he was talking about Big Bob Tonyan, I think Travis might be the president of the fan club. So
no, that's fine. That's fair. He can be president whatever he wants right now. He's on the GQ cover apparently. And he's about to have the biggest podcast potentially ever tomorrow. So I'm intrigued to see what those numbers are within a 24-hour period.
There was a brief consideration because today, I'm not going to lie, today was a lot going on. I actually had to bypass an event that I was scheduled for. I thought about postponing the Q&A, and then I was like, I can't. Can I do it on Wednesday night? No, because no one will be here on Wednesday night because of...
No, people will be here. They're just not tuning into your thing.
That's the thing, is that the moment I say, hey, thanks for joining me instead of New Heights, people will be like, wait a minute, New Heights is on? Yeah.
That's why you don't say that, Matt. So, Nico Remigio is one that I personally be kind of checking on, see if there's interest in that point. Joshua Williams is another guy that I wouldn't be stunned if a couple of people around the league didn't call and check on. And I think that for the most part is really kind of where most of that's at. I mean, I think Carson Steele's still on the bubble. I don't think that that's locked in, and I personally don't know if Mike Edwards is locked in the way that people think. I haven't got to obviously see if he's running with the twos primarily this week or not, but I do know a lot during OTAs and mini camp and part of training camp he was running with the threes, and I don't know if that's just because he's coaching some of those back end guys up or they know what they have and they're trying to find out from other people. But I personally didn't expect him to be going against Bailey Zappi on a regular basis.
Well, and I can say from the last couple of days, Nick, maybe the surprising thing is that he was more with the twos and even coming in on the back end of the ones a little bit. But you know what? Who wasn't coming in with the twos or on the back end of the ones? It's Josh Williams, who still remains buried on this depth chart. And
he's been with the threes the entire time.
You get to that. I mean, you get to that 10th maybe defensive back spot, and Mike Williams Mike Edwards is in that category. Josh Williams is in that category. I mean, I think Chris Roland Wallace is clearly on this team. I think the cut line is after that. I mean, I would say Sky Moore, but I don't know that you can get anything much if there really is a market for Sky Moore. You're not going to cut, I don't think, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, but if somebody called and offered a trade, I would listen.
Yeah, I'd shop that around for running back.
Wanye would also fit into that category. That I don't know if I'd walk away from Wanye because for the deficiencies that are there, he's an experienced tackle who started NFL games, and there are some teams that actually could use that right now. So, and I go back to again your comparison. Last year he was your number three tackle. He's going to be your number 4 right tackle right now at best. You've upgraded, so at least if Wanye is your number 4 guy, you're still upgraded from where you were a year ago. Outside of that, I'm not sure. The only other 2 possibilities I would throw out there. And one is because there's going to be a receiver left on the outside. I don't know if it's going to be Nico. I know it's not going to be Tyquan Thornton. It could be Jason Brownlee. And, Amir Smith-Marset got traded last year in a very similar situation when he was the odd man out. So could the odd man out this year being Jason Brownlee? Could that be the guy? Maybe. Again, you just don't know what kind of a market would develop. And I get really curious when, the Chiefs brought in Michael Wiley today as a running back addition, because it tells me that they are looking for more running backs. They don't have a depth problem right now. They just might have a who do we want on this team problem. And Elijah Mitchell, is he a guy that you shop because he's a veteran? Maybe somebody's interested in? I don't know. You mentioned Carson Steele. Yeah, I'd throw Elijah Mitchell out there. Once again, it's just you don't know what market's out there. But interesting, Nick, that Mike Bradway talked today about the fact that even right now, everybody in the front office is making calls and fielding calls from everybody around the league because they're all talking about, hey, who's the guy that's not going to make your team? Mm-hmm. They want to know who's available, who might end up being on the waiver wire. Because if you're the Chiefs, you're not getting anybody at the waiver wire probably. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want somebody, you're going to have to trade them. And you also have to be cognizant of the fact that you got like a Mike Borgonzi that's got a team that needs a lot of turnover that could claim anybody that you place on waivers because they're number 1 on the list. And if the Chiefs let go of anybody, they might not get past Tennessee. So I would not. And from what Mike Bradway's answer today was, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs were fairly active the week of cut downs, making deals or at least listening to deals. So, are you listening for deals, Nick?
No, I'm pretty sure I heard lightning.
Uh-oh. Well, we don't need that.
For the lightning round.
For the lightning round. Let's see. What is, I have a lot of questions in here because I asked Nick. I told everybody that we might be breaking up the Q&A into 2 nights and everything. And so a lot of questions and suggestions. So and Albert, we kind of talked about this a little bit about this, any depth chart changes since the game. I kind of talked about them. I mean, not a lot of huge ones, not ones that I think were significant. But like I said, there's a couple in there. Like I said, Marlon Tuipulotu was getting some more reps in places. I think that's interesting because he's in that mix for maybe a final defensive tackle spot, and maybe whether you keep 9 or 10 defensive tackles. I think there's going to be some questions about who's going to be your last linebacker, and Jeff Bossa was kind of moving up the chart a little bit. Cooper McDonald is an interesting choice in that group too. Was getting a little bit more reps. I honestly, like I said, Nick, after what happened in the preseason game and just the last couple of days, Mike Edwards looked like he might be up a notch, but again, I think that's going to come down to just how many defensive backs do the Chiefs keep. And I will say this once again, my best Eric Bieniemy voice. More lightning, more thunder. Robert Tonyan looks like the fourth tight end. I just don't see how you're not keeping Robert Tonyan on this team. So I think the Chiefs are keeping 4 tight ends. And so I will have my latest 53 roster projection out either late tonight or tomorrow morning. And Robert Tonyan's going to be on it. I'm keeping 4 tight ends. It's just that it looks like what the Chiefs are doing right now.
All right, then.
Let's see. What are we going next? See, I'm not as behind as I usually am, Nick. See, so.
Oh, I'll be the judge of that.
Chris, there's a good idea. Getting someone from an opposing team to come in on the second Q&A. I would love to try and do that. I bet we could do that some weeks.
What's this we stuff?
No, as I said, Nick, if we do it 2 nights a week, you're Tuesday nights. You're the Tuesday night guy. You're always going to be Tuesday nights, but you can't do another night because you have a job in a real life.
Well, and I also do this for free on my off night.
Exactly. See, so I'm not really behind here.
I'm not really behind. That question is at 7:08. We're at 7:44, Matt.
Well, we're at 7:17 now. So, how much longer from Bumpa can this defensive line be Chris Jones and friends? Karlaftis needs to step up, or one of these D-line draft picks needs to hit along with that. Is FAU is the worst first round pick from Veach ever? That's a question if he is. So, let's deal with the first part, just kind of first, Nick. There's no doubt the Chiefs need a future leader behind Chris Jones. Is Omar Norman not the guy?
I think that's a person they're trying to mold into that guy long term. We'll see the path they take over the next year and a half with him. Because I personally thought they were originally going to keep him a 3-tech. But they ended up moving to a 1-tech and then bulked him up to where it looks like he's about 20 pounds over what he was when we saw him at rookie minicamp. And I know people haven't been enamored with his performance so far, but a lot of that I personally believe stems from when he got his ankle rolled up on the first day of pads back in late July. And it's been over 2 weeks at this point, and there hasn't been a ton of rest. So I think once he gets that week in between the Chiefs' final preseason game and that Chargers game, I'm kind of curious to see if he's able to get a little oomph into who he is, because he did show some quickness and stuff before the injury. So I don't think people really got to see who he truly is as a pass rusher at this point. But yeah, no, you're hoping he can be. The Chiefs paid Karlaftis and invested in him, and they would probably like him to be that. So There and then you'll see what Ashton Gelati can potentially do and what he may end up being able to be. But you've got 3 guys that they've attempted to position in a place to where when Chris Jones starts slowly kind of winding down athletically from the dominant player he was, that they have guys who can take on that role. We'll see if they can or not.
And I thought it was an interesting conversation an exchange I had with Joe Cullen today, because I asked him specifically about, the way that Omar Norman Lott's added on to maybe this year be more of a 1-tech than a 3-tech. And he didn't dismiss the fact that he can still play 3-tech this year and, play both positions. And then it was like, he hadn't really put on 20 pounds. Maybe he might be more like 305. Well, he was 291 at the combine. So even by Joe's admission, he's put on at least 14 pounds.
Right.
So not he might be a couple of donuts away from putting on 20. But there's no doubt. I mean, Omer Norman's a bigger dude than he was when he first got here. And that's an emphasis on them wanting him to be a little bit more one tech and a run defender. And hey, is that just part of the plan to make him all around better player, because he hasn't been a run defender before? I mean, he's in college, he was a go after the passer kind of guy. So
yeah, because part of me has kind of wondered, are they trying to build up, one, his toughness, two, who he is in run defense, and make him rotate in with Mike Pennell so Mike Pennell doesn't play all those snaps, and really kind of build his physicality, and then down the road, and also be able to learn from Chris and Mike Pennell right now, and then down the road, if they do want him to drop back in weight and he's got 2 full years in their strength training, can they turn him into a dominant 3 tech at that point? So that's what I'm saying. We'll see over the next couple years if this is what that plan actually is, or if they're locked in on making him a 1 tech.
Yeah, and you said something that maybe in this question kind of led me off to it. I wanted to follow up, because you and I have both seen a few of the episodes of The Kingdom, the ESPN documentary.
I've seen all of them.
I haven't gotten through them all yet, but I will say through the episodes that I have seen, Chris Jones is a lot more of a vocal leader on that defense than I think he ever gets any credit for. I mean, you see it behind the scenes, and you hear some things before that, like, hey, George Karlaftis also talked about Chris Jones getting into you and everything. And I think we generally, for the most part, Nick, we see one of two Chris Joneses. We see either the laughy, jokey Chris Jones, or we see the hey, kind of somber, serious, trying to be serious Chris Jones on the podium. We don't get to see the Chris Jones lighting into you, because we didn't get to see. You haven't seen Defensive Tackle on Netflix. You don't get to see the NFL films of Patrick Mahomes. But Chris Jones lights into guys just like Patrick Mahomes does on defense.
Yeah, well, and then he gave I'm not going to spoil it in this regard and what he said, but in the final episode, after the Super Bowl was done and over with, he gave a speech behind closed doors. His mic was still on, but he gave a speech that it's going to stick with a lot of Chiefs fans. That is about what this year's about, what their mentality is about, how they have to approach their business, how they have to go about everything. And I'm just telling you, Chris plays with a certain mindset and a certain mentality that I think rivals Patrick Mahomes more than people realize until they watch the 6-part series of Chris in it. Because Chris and Justin Reed really come on strong in the 4th, 5th, and 6th episodes. You get to see about Justin Reed and his baby about ready to be born, and his partner, and kind of going through that, and then what type of leader he is, and the speeches he would give to the secondary. Then you see the speeches that Chris gives to the defensive line, and then you hear Chris say something in there that stuck with me because you and I talked about it on podcast after podcast, and it was just nice to hear a player say it. And he basically said, he's like, sometimes we lean on Patrick too much. Like, for like a star player to openly say that, I'm like, oh, thank you. So I wasn't crazy. But no, I mean, like, I'm telling you, for every person that's listening right now, the Kingdom, Chiefs fans are going to love it. There's certain parts of it that, like, if I was doing the storytelling, I would have done some things in a different way, set the episodes up in a different way. But once the episode 4 was the perfect episode. That was like, that's the peak of storytelling right there, to where when they did go backwards, it was to things that actually kind of set up the story of what they were talking about. Learning about Steve Spagnuolo's past, learning about Chris Jones's past, hearing from his mom and his dad. And then there's another episode where they talk to Patrick Mahomes' dad and Patrick Mahomes' mom and Patrick's open in a way that he's never been. And so, like, I'm just telling you, like, I mean, and kind of you get to learn a little bit about why Patrick is the way that he is in a good way, because of how quickly he had to grow up in some regards, and he tells part of those stories. So I'm just saying that, and that's what people really want in those series. That's what people are after. Not cookie cutter stuff, not protective. They want real people that overcame adversity or had to go through things, and you figure out why are they so successful now? What did they go through that got them to this point? So that's what I loved about Spagnuolo. And then you see one of Steve Spagnuolo's high school football photos, and like that's awesome. And then just how he became the coach he is, and just how the players adore him and stuff like that. And like you just see everything build up to where I was telling you, like, I mean, 4, 5, and 6 is really when it finds its stride about what I thought the series was going to be all along.
There you go. See, and I'm just getting to episode 4, so now I feel like it must be just a slow build. So,
and Taylor Swift they do have a microphone either above Taylor at one point in episode 5, and you do hear her have an interaction with some people, and it's actually pretty funny.
Oh boy. I can't wait. Now I may have to binge tonight, Nick.
Nah, that's what I did yesterday. I ran through the final 3.
Second part of Bumpus' question real quick. Yeah, we get this every once in a while. Felix, Brett Veach's worst first-round pick ever? Too early to judge?
I'm not. We'll see what happens this year. Like we'll see. We'll see what the year brings for him. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I just don't know if he's in the right scheme here in Kansas City. I feel like he needs to be in the old Seattle wide 9 attack. And I think when he pass rushes at an angle, I think he's at his best of what he can be. And he's not necessarily having to kind of work with both the run and the pass, and he can pin his ears back and be a pass rusher and not necessarily have to be as reserved and have to hold the edge and hold the line, but he can kind of be a guy who collapses the line in from a wide 9 perspective. I think that's his wheelhouse, was where his skill set's at. So, yeah, I just personally, I don't know if this scheme was best for him. And if that is the case, then that's something more so the scouting department's got to collectively kind of come together long term and decide, hey, what happened? Why did it happen? And how do they make sure they don't have something like that happen again, to where it wasn't the right scheme fit, especially for a pick that high.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think that I don't think of myself as a Brett Veach apologist, but I just, over the years, especially covering this team, you're picking in 30, 31, and 32. Those are just the absolute worst picks that you could possibly have sometimes. And I feel bad for Felix, because I think that if that draft had been in Dallas, Texas, the Chiefs probably trade that pick, and they might still get Felix at like 38. And his career might be totally different if he was an early second-round pick versus a first-round pick. I don't know. But I think it was always just a tough situation that he came into. Always thought if he has a chance to break through, he's a late bloomer. And to your point, maybe it's just the wrong scheme. Maybe he would be better suited somewhere else.
And I'm saying that's the part where the scouting's got to figure out, if this didn't work, why didn't it work? And what could they do differently down the road to make sure they don't have this happen again? Because like 3 plays later, Sam Laporta goes. And then after him, Mitch Meyer, the tight end, goes. And then you go a little bit further down, the Chiefs ended up taking, let's see if I remember correctly. I'm going to double check. Yeah.
Took Rashee Rice.
Yeah, took Rashee Rice. I was just trying to find the exact spot. Took him at the 55th pick overall. So, like, if you switch it to where you take Rashee Rice in the first round and Felix in the second, then, people see that differently and people aren't as hard on Felix overall. But the point for me is, no matter where he was selected at, I personally don't think he's a good fit for their scheme from what his skill set is, from what I've seen. And it didn't matter where you would have taken him. I think you still have that problem, and that's something that's bigger than where Felix is at physically.
There you go. Perry, am I crazy to say Josh Williams outperformed Najee, but the Chiefs for some reason love Najee? What do you think, Nick?
So Nazee's going against a higher caliber receiver at that point in the game than what Josh Williams is going against. Did they target Nazee more than Williams? They sure did. But Nazee at least knew where the ball was and at least had a general idea. Where we talked about in the podcast.
Yeah, the ball hits you in the back of the head, Nick. It still goes down as a pass defense.
Yeah, it does. You just didn't know that it happened. You just lucked into that one. But either way, with Nazee, when the receiver did that step outside and then he hopped and then the receiver did the slant off of him, that can't happen. But Josh Williams just wasn't in the same position going against the same caliber receiver. I think the Cardinals may have picked on him just as much if he was in the same position.
Yeah, and even sometimes you give it to the other guy. Sometimes the other guy makes a better play, and against Nazee, receiver made a better play, set him up well, and took advantage of it. Sometimes the other guy does it. As Andy Reid will say every once in a while, Nick, yeah, they got us on that one. Oh, let's see. Howdy, Jeremy. Let's see. Looking for my next question. I'm sorry, everybody. You're just watching me scroll here. Jeremy was asking specifically about that. Matt, any plans to catch the kingdom? Think it will show us anything about the 2024 season that we didn't already know? You touched on it a little bit, Nick. Anything about 2024 that you learned that you didn't know?
Yes.
I will say this, even for the 3 episodes that I've seen, I've learned things that existed that I just didn't know.
What did you know? What did you know exists, Matt?
Well, does anybody want spoilers? I don't want to spoil it for anybody.
Okay, fine. Don't.
So,
you can text me later about it.
Well, we may have to, have some questions and answers about, the kingdom after all of you get to see it and everything. I will just see that I got to learn and see things about just the franchise that I did not know. You might be able to answer one question for me, Nick, since you have seen all of the episodes.
And I'm very good at not giving spoilers. Yes.
And this, I hope, is not too much of a spoiler. This is just a little bit more of a critique and a commentary, because it is, in theory, as pitched, a history of the Chiefs franchise told through the story of the 2024 season.
Yep.
Does Carl Peterson's name ever get mentioned?
Not once.
I haven't seen it through the first 3 episodes.
You know me. I got a memory. No,
and I was trying to see if I couldn't even remember if I'd heard Carl Peters or Marty Schottenheimer's name either.
I don't definitively know about Marty because they talked about some of the Chiefs defenses over the decades. Because they showcase some of the Chiefs defenses, so they talk about the Chiefs something that I learned from it towards the tail end of, I want to say episode 5, is they talk about the Chiefs Super Bowl IV defense and just the confidence they had. They called it something different. They didn't say it in a profane way, but you do hear a lot of profanity in the documentary from the mic'd up segments on the football field. So you're going to hear that from Travis, Chris, Patrick, and a handful of other people, and Justin.
There's a warning about language before the beginning of every episode.
There is. So you'll hear it all on ESPN Plus. I don't think you'll hear it on the ESPN broadcast, though. They're going to have to bleep them. But ESPN Plus, you will hear it unfiltered, and it's great. But no, they never mentioned Carl once, but they did talk about that Chiefs Super Bowl IV defense and how they were insulted if you scored a touchdown on them. They had a certain mindset about them. And they talked about why they were so good. And they did that. And then they touched a little bit on Derrick Thomas. And I think they might have either seen or they talked about Marty there for a quick minute. And then they talked about how Chris Jones has kind of taken the mantle, from that of the Chiefs kind of defensive stars. And they mentioned Albert Lewis and a couple other people, Deron Cherry and a couple other people in that episode.
And not acknowledging and mentioning Carl Peterson, I think
not mentioned once.
Massive oversight, and I'll just say it, incredibly petty, because I mean, we say this is the. I mean, here's my. I will say for my first 3 episodes that I've watched, my chief complaint is, since it is pitched as being from some of the producers of The Last Dance, The Last Dance didn't have a lot of varnish on it. I mean, there was a lot of moments that didn't always make the Bulls and Michael Jordan look great, and Jordan commented on some of those things. I mean, I didn't feel like it was a glossy picture of everything about Michael Jordan and the Bulls. But there are moments where this feels just too sugary sweet, that it's just there was too much approval from the powers that be on this. And if the powers that be is what, wiped out Carl Peterson, I just think that was a bad move.
So here's where I'll weigh in on this part of it.
Go for it.
It's tough to make a documentary while events are still unfolding. With The Last Dance in Michael's career, it was done and over with. And there'd been enough time and distance to where some of those stories you can get now because people aren't attached to organizations anymore. And, there's not as many people giving approval on this or that in that regard, where, there's still a lot of people tethered to the organization at that point. What I will be intrigued to see, and I really do hope to see down the road, is after the fact. I would love to see a Patriots documentary of their dynasty time somewhere down the road. What they went through during that time after get with Belichick, get with Brady, get with Richard Seymour, Gronk, those guys in a couple years, and just learn about the different waves of it. I would love to see a Last Dance in terms of the Patriot form. Like that would be, I know they kind of did Man in the Arena, but I don't know. I think there's a different approach to take with that, where I just want to hear more about who the Patriots were overall versus what that was. And then I really selfishly want to see, after the Chiefs run's done and over with, I want to see one that's after people have gotten some distance from the organization, what that was overall, what that was like, what the ups and downs were, what they went through. And this is just, it's too in the moment right now for it to kind of be as true and honest as it probably needs to be in terms of a reflection of a certain time and era.
There you go. I'm finally getting to the part, even though we're doing a really good job tonight, Nick, of scrolling ahead of times, but I now have everybody reminding me that Semisonic did closing.
Yep. And you know what closing time's about, right?
Doctor Who says it's about being born.
Yeah, the lead singer's child is going to be born, so he did that about kind of the new phase.
There you go. And
his life.
Not really. I mean, I guess you could say that the new season's being born at the end of training camp, but I think they're being fairly literal with the playing of that song. That training camp is over.
Yeah, they're just leaving St. Joe. That's all.
Just leaving St. Joe.
They're leaving the dorms. That's what that's about. I just wonder how many players are going to beat Mackenzie and I back to Kansas City tomorrow.
I guess I don't know about that, but yes, there will be a race back to Kansas City. So
no, yeah. I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying I wonder how many people are going to be ahead of us.
I'm saying that there will be. I'm just saying if there'll be a race back to Kansas City. Gary wants. Should we be worried about Omar Norman Lott, Nick? I'm not worried. Are you?
No, I mean, I already talked about what the situation is. So,
yeah,
I think he's still healing up from that ankle injury.
Yeah, and would like to see him get some opportunity to heal up from that. But they're clearly wanting him to push through it and get some work done. So, there you go. I knew that Brian had said something about Andy Heck, so I knew that was coming up. We do get this from time to time, but it's always a good opportunity to answer questions like this, Nick. We had guests no 10-10-10 for Monday, and they said they did. Can you give more detail about what 10-10-10 means? 10-10-10 is 10 plays for the first team offense against the scout team. It's 10 plays for the first team defense against an offense scout team, and then essentially 10 minutes of special teams. So, and they do 2 full rounds of that, and then they finish with 10 more plays for the offense and 10 more plays for the defense. And there she wrote about
And so for
80
Steam
minutes.
and Demon, they did 10-10-10 on Monday, and then they did a full practice on Tuesday.
Yeah, which
So
is
they switched it. They switched it than what they've done for primarily, I don't know, 13 years now.
Yeah, but this is, I mean, I'm telling you right now, Nick, this is senioritis week. There's a lot of players with senioritis.
Tomorrow is tomorrow's going to be, I don't know, you think it'll be an hour?
It's on the schedule for an hour and 50 minutes.
No, I know what the schedule says. I'm talking reality over here, Matt.
And pads and shells, but
it's like a glorified walkthrough. It's like a high school Thursday walkthrough before a big game on Varsity Friday.
Yeah.
Especially the last day.
Perry, when it comes to the wide receiver room, is Nico that much better a returner than Brownlee, Thornton are wide receivers in order for a return specialist? Does he have that home run ability like Hester had to be a specialist?
Oh, you're wanting me to go first? Okay.
I wasn't necessarily. I was saying no. He doesn't have the home run specialty like Hester. I'll agree with that. Does not have that.
No, he didn't. He didn't have the burst that Hester does. He didn't have the burst that Tyreek does. He didn't have the burst that Brashard Smith does. He didn't have the burst that Thornton does. So, Nico Remigio is a serviceable guy who will catch the football and run forward. And it's not a knock on him. That's just the role that he's found. That's what his niche is. So, where people keep forgetting about Brownlee, and part of it is because they weren't up at camp watching it. Brownlee, in terms of jump balls, being able to catch that from Mahomes or Minshew, that dude's got a special talent that no other receiver on that roster has showcased outside of occasionally Xavier Worthy. So I'm saying that's if Brownlee can showcase that, that may make some some decisions tougher. Thornton's going to make the roster because of speed, and he can be an insurance policy for Worthy, like we talked about on the podcast on Sunday. So Nico Remigio is not going to separate a ton as a wide receiver. So, in all honesty, the only thing holding Nico Remigio back is he just doesn't have the burst that some of the other guys on the roster have. That's the only reason we're even talking about, is he a bubble guy or not?
And here's the thing that's fascinating to me, because, we talk about Tyquan Thornton. Tyquan Thornton's, got elite speed. He and Xavier Worthy are the 2 fastest guys on this team. But Tyquan Thornton has never returned kicks. He returned 7 kicks in college, and be honest, he was terrible on those 7 kicks. So I don't know if it's just, he was smaller and thinner back then, so it could certainly be just that back then a fingertip could bring him down for a tackle, and maybe that's why you don't want to have him back there. Honestly, that's a little bit of my concern with even thinking about Xavier Worthy, because Xavier Worthy has got a lot of skills, but his ability to run through contact has not been one of them yet. So, yes, Brashard Smith has had some success there. Those guys have some burst. What I like about Nico, obviously, other than just the reliability, that you feel pretty comfortable that he's not going to turn the football over. He's not going to make bad decisions. He's not going to make mistakes. He's at least going to give you the football in reasonable position. And hey, can he break off a 50-yard return? Clearly. He can do that occasionally. Is he never going to return one for a touchdown? It might be hard because he's not the fastest guy in the world, but hey, he's a smart runner and a smart returner, so he could possibly get some things done. But that's the thing, Perry, is that usually in most cases you're talking about players making the team and then finding roles on special teams. And you're right. Brownlee and Thornton have size and ability in the red zone that should give the Chiefs. And like you said, Nick, Thornton's been good too at contested catches. He's had a really good camp at being able to go up and elevate and get balls. That catch that Brownlee had is once again a catch that I'm not sure that many guys on the Chiefs team can make. That was really impressive because he's got length and he can do that. But at the same time, neither one of them are returners for some reason. I don't know why they don't have that skill set. It's just not a club that's in their bag. It is something that Nico can do. He's just happens to not be anywhere near as good of a receiver as they are. So it's the reverse. I mean, rather than being players that you have are going to make the team, and then you got to find a role for them on special teams. In this case, Nico is one of the few guys that you can have that's a reliable returner. You're just going to have to carve out a role for him on offense or a place that he can play, because he is probably going to be your last guy on the bench at receiver. And I don't know. I mean, I could go for the explosiveness and say, hey, go ahead and have that deep, characteristic. But you know what? Sky Moore had that big playability, and he also had the fumbleitis. And Sky Moore cost his team football games receiving punts. So I'm not necessarily opposed to the whole, hey, just catch the football on a punt and hand it back to Patrick Mahomes. I just don't know that this team has anybody other than Nico Remigio, and according to Dave Tobe, maybe Trent McDuffie, maybe Xavier Worthy, to just catch the ball and hand it to somebody. So it's to me it's a bit of a catch-22. And maybe you're right, Nick. Maybe I just have too much of a soft spot for Nico Remigio to be objective. I will readily admit that it's possible. There are certainly at least 3 players on this team, Nick, for whom I do have soft spots.
Oh, really? Do you want to name them, or should I name them for you?
I think I'm reliably confident that you can name the 3. I'm giving you Nico Remigio.
Oh yeah, obviously. Then Chris Oladokun's another one.
Absolutely, Chris Oladokun, let him cook.
And then this year recently has been Robert Tonyan.
Yeah, this year's Robert Tonyan. So yeah, those 3 can do no wrong in my book right now. So.
And then probably Mike Caliendo would be your 4th. Although you do love yourself some Hunter Norzad.
I do love me some Hunter Norzad. Yeah, I got a soft spot for Hunter Norzad. Although Caliendo, I mean, you need Mike Caliendos on your team. Ron Swanson. So therefore, I gets kudo points for just having a great username.
I wonder if he's related to Kent. Are you Kent Swanson's brother, Ronster?
Should we read into Connor Embry's ringing endorsement for Remigio and Tobe's continued support? I mean, I'm reading into it, Nick, but
I just want to give you 2 reminders. I mean, as Andy Reid always says, he's got 51% of the vote, and Brett Veach is also the general manager.
and we do know that Dave Tobe usually gets 1 guy. He would like to have 53 guys, but he usually gets 1. And I think that, some of his other guys, Jack Cochran's going to make the team. So Dave Tobe doesn't have to use his his Uno card. He doesn't have to use that on Jack Cochran. He doesn't have to necessarily use it on Carson Steele.
We don't know. We don't know which player it is.
So. We don't know. But I will say, I mean, I thought Connor Embry's answer today was a lot more telling even than Tobe's, because Connor's answer was a little bit more like, yeah, Nico's making the team, so I got to find a place to put him now.
Here's what I'll say: is their name Andy Reid or Brett Veach?
No, but he does work for Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
And as Andy Reid, he makes it very, very clear. Every once in a while, you just do what your boss tells you to do.
So, yeah.
Even Andy Reid does what his boss tells him to do.
Right. I'm saying if Andy Reid and Brett Veach go on record saying definitively he's making the team, then boom, done, locked up. But and there's still, and here's the other thing, there's still 2 preseason games left.
There's a long way.
Let's stop writing everything in stone. Everybody wants to write everything in stone the second something happens. And it's like, guys, there are so many things that can happen between now and August 26th.
If Nico Remigio fumbles a kick or a punt, or Brashard Smith returns a punt through the end zone and out the tunnel and into the parking lot, then yeah, that could change things.
Injuries change things too, Matt.
Injuries change things too. Yes.
Ask the Chargers.
And Vopocalypse, speaking of deals, bring back Colin Saunders. Shouldn't take much. What say you? Colin's still under contract somewhere, right?
He's with the Saints, yes.
Well, I was going to say. So you're wanting to trade for Colin Saunders, or hope that the Saints release him, I suppose? Would you do either one of those things, Nick?
No, they've moved on. They've moved on. I know we love to bring everybody back to the reunion, but
we do like to bring people back.
Well, not we, but people.
Not me. I mean, I said, yeah.
Fans love to bring everybody back.
And anytime a former Chief becomes available, it does. Getting the band back does become a deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Colin was a good teammate. It's always going to be any problem with that, but yeah, I think they're probably in a different direction right now. Night Hunter, totally off topic. Ha ha ha, not really. Why is the NFL waiting so long to hand down Rice's impending suspension? We don't know, do we, Nick?
We don't have any. I mean, we don't know definitively, but there may be stuff that they're logistically working on and finding out and figuring out, and stuff behind the scenes that we don't know about. So, just again, long time between now and September 5th.
And I know there's a lot of questions because Jordan Addison's criminal case, I guess, came down pretty much the exact same time that Rasheed's did, and then Jordan Addison's suspension has come out. I would say that probably a little bit more complexity to Rasheed's case. There was a little bit more moving parts to that one. Also, I don't know if Jordan Addison or the NFLPA appealed that suspension. I don't know if Rashee Rice and the NFLPA will or have appealed any suspension for Rashee Rice, but that can absolutely delay things too. There's still plenty of time if they want to get the suspension handed down by week 1. So we will see. But bottom line is, and this is the thing, we always say, the NFL, you don't know what they're going to do or why they're going to do it or when they're going to do it. Chris, how devastating is the Rashawn Slater injury for the Chargers? That's bad for the Chargers, Nick.
Sorry, I just thought Justin Reed like one of my tweets.
Dude, there you go.
It was about the kingdom. Hope he's doing well. Anyways, how devastating? Yeah, look, I mean, that upended a lot of plans, man. Because now the Chargers, instead of having 2 strengths to tackle, they're gonna have a weakness at right tackle, and Joe Alt is, he's gonna go to left tackle now, and they'll be fine at left tackle, but that right tackle leaves an opening now. There's an opening there to make a very uncomfortable pocket.
Yeah, that's enough to me that I think it could absolutely cost the Chargers a couple of games. So, I mean, if you think that the Chargers were an 11-6 team, they might be 9-8 now. I mean, that's a big enough blow for them. Jedi, can Chiefs still put Wiley on IR until he is more healthy? Not really once he starts playing. I mean, unless he develops another injury of some sort. I mean, that's a little dicey. I mean, I think you would get some grievances from a lot of different sources if the Chiefs tried to pull it off. Like I said, unless he has a exacerbation of the knee injury, if something else is a setback or there's a new injury of some sort. But once he's approved physically to come back to play, he's ready to play. So I think the more likely outcome would be that Jared Wiley makes the 53. And if he's not 100% and he's not moving as quickly as you'd like for him to move at this point, that's why you probably keep 4 tight ends and you have Bob Tunyon around until Jared Wiley is fully ready to go. But it's life in the NFL. Luttrell is offering to double cast the podcast salary, Nick. I mean, Luttrell's willing to double the podcast salary.
So we're going from 0 to 00.
Gosh, I was going to try and at least get $4 out of Luttrell, Nick. So way to blow $4 for me.
What are you gonna do with that $4, Matt?
What would I do with it?
Yeah,
probably peanut butter cups.
At least you got a plan. That's all that matters.
Speaking of which, do we have any Hy-Vee finds this week?
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but
no, you already did by asking. So. Don't want to put you on the spot, but I just put you on the spot. Sure, we will have some.
KC Chiefs 12 think the Chiefs pick up a running back on the waiver wire after all the cuts. Possible. I mean, obviously they went out to got Michael Wiley today, so there's one shot that they're taking at running back. And once again, Nick and I talked about some of the trade candidates that you have on your own team. If you want to go out and try and get a running back, it's a possibility. Certainly, you're going to scour the waiver wire for anything and everything. You're probably not going to have much of a chance of getting somebody that you want on the waiver wire, being number 31 on the list. But that's why, like we mentioned earlier, and Mike Bradway mentioned today, everybody in the front office is talking to everybody else in somebody else's front office about who's available, who could be available, what they're looking for, you name it.
Yeah, no,
Daniel, you guys get paid for this.
What?
Daniel, you guys get paid for this?
I don't.
This is community service for Nick. So
really, is that what we're calling it now?
Well, it's not court. It's not court ordered. It's just
No wonder you turn the people against me all the time.
No, that's what I'm saying. This is Nick giving back to the community. This is
that's not how that sounds when you say it. No.
This is like Nick's work with the United Way. This is him giving back to the community. Except he's much nicer than Peyton Manning.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just imagining that now. You think the United Way commercial?
That's what. Spend time with your kids, so Peyton Manning won't. I think Chris, yes or nay on the ESPN. I think we're both going to be yays on this.
What?
Yay or nay on the Kingdom?
What do you mean
on ESPN? Just yes or no. I have thumbs up, thumbs down.
No, it was I enjoyed it. It's just from a storytelling perspective. There's a way I envisioned it going, and part of it's my fault for wanting it to be more like The Last Dance than it was. It went its own direction, but down the road, I would like to see a full encompassing thing with Mahomes after he retires, or more overall about the Chiefs dynasty after some time's passed and it's done and over with.
I haven't seen Patrick Mahomes say, and I took that personally. See, so there's.
Well, he doesn't have to right now because he's still in the league.
Exactly.
Like Jordan can do that because Jordan's out of the league. There's no retribution he's going to get from saying that now.
Luttrell, I accept your offer. Triple at a 20% bonus at the end of the year. Man, I could get 2 bags of peanut butter cups. And the family size. We're not just talking snack bags here.
Another edition of Hy-Vee Finds. Let's go with number 1. I saw it today at Hy-Vee. These are both sodas this week. I apologize. Because I got into. So, first one here, Matt. It is A&W Ice Cream Sundae Soda. They have it in minis, they have it in a 12-pack, and they had it in a single thing. I did not get it. I did not drink it, but it is there and available. It's in its own spot, just right there on the south end of the Hy-Vee and Liberty. I don't know where else it's at, but you can definitely probably check it out. A&W Ice Cream Sundae.
Is it just one flavor, or are there different flavors?
Nope, it's just one flavor called Ice Cream Sundae.
Okay, because I'm seeing like what looks like a root beer float, and then strawberry, and I guess I'm just curious what the flavor is.
The flavor is Ice Cream Sundae, Matt.
So is it which one is it? There's like three different flavors sitting there. I guess I just want to know if there's
the flavor is called Ice Cream Sundae.
Well, I know, but Ice Cream Sundae can be strawberry, it could be chocolate, it could be vanilla. I guess I have questions. It looks like there's a cherry on the bottle, but I'm intrigued. Don't get me wrong. I just need to know if if it's strawberry, I'm probably passing. But if there's a chocolate or a vanilla angle to it, well, sign me up.
It has been the first edition of Hy-Vee Finds that Matt tore apart.
No, I just need more details. And remember, I was all aboard on the A&W root beer float Bluebell ice cream.
I should these last week.
And now we have Crush back to the 80s electric blue Raz.
Yeah, let me email myself this one too. We'll do this one just in honor of last week.
So a blueberry raspberry soda.
So this one, yeah, the theme is back to the 80s. So the Crush, I don't know what flavor. Well, yeah, it's what, the blue raspberry soda. I didn't think that was a huge flavor back then, but it is for the theme that they're doing.
Interesting. I'm definitely having some 80s flashbacks here. So
Are you now?
I mean,
Matt, one more.
This
is the other one.
Oh, there we go. All righty.
This one, Matt and I got to experience this past Tuesday, or not this past Tuesday, but last Wednesday, when Arizona Barbecue was up there feeding the Chiefs and the Kansas City media the Thunderberry Zarda barbecue flavor. It's got chipotle, raspberry flavored barbecue. It's pretty good.
And what I learned from being in with my friends on Sports Radio 810 on Friday, because Terry Heyer from Zarda came in with the Thunderberry sauce. What I learned is that this is in conjunction with the Steps of Faith Foundation, which they do a fundraiser every year, Thunder Gong. So this sauce folds in with the theme of their event every year that they do, the fundraiser. Our hero, whose name I'm blanking on because I'm terrible with names, Jason Sudeikis. His other comedian friend, whose also name I'm blanking on right now,
Will Forte.
Will Forte, thank you very much. Both involved in the organization. I think
this is why I'm here, people.
This is why you're here. You're the best producer in the business, folks. But this sauce, all the proceeds from the Thunderberry sauce go to the Steps of Faith, which is an organization that helps people who have lost limbs, and my mother was one of those. She had an amputation below the knee. I know how difficult it is to find resources. That if you are a person who has, lost a limb or anything of that nature, or you're a caregiver for someone, this organization helps provide resources for that. That's an incredibly wonderful cause. I did not expect to like this because remind me, Nick, is it raspberry chipotle?
Yeah, that's what I said a minute ago.
Okay.
Sorry, I just saw Luttrell's thing from your community service comment, and he said Nick is Gordon Bombay, court mandated to spend time with us and teach us life lessons, eventually growing to love us. Tip of the cap, Luttrell.
Everything except the court ordered is absolutely true. But
he never said court order. He said mandated.
Okay. Everything except the court mandated. Totally true.
For all you know, yeah.
I mean, I've never had to sign off a form or anything.
Matt, people have been paying you monies and you haven't been answering their money.
Oh my gosh, you are correct. My goodness.
Why you out here napping, bro?
I am out here napping. So I'll stop trying to raise money for Steps of Faith and try
before you cost yourself, bro.
Because Jesus, I hope
before you cost yourself.
Jesus, I dropped your name earlier because I am absolutely trying to get the podcast up before the beginning of the season, where you'll start getting these on the live streams on a podcast feed. So we're going to do that for you. Jesus has been asking for the live streams to be on a podcast feed, so you don't have to have them on YouTube.
Wow.
So we're going to have an audio. I am going to make the audio version available going forward before the beginning of the season. So I just wanted Jesus to know that. Was Kelsey overrated by the NFL players last season? Because he's the number 37 player in the league?
Spoiler alert. If I remember correctly, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, Matt, but from what I've heard over the years, you just get a list and you write down 10 players, and then it just magically turns into whatever it turns into.
I think you have to you can list up to 20 players, I think.
Okay, but I think you have to list 10 minimum.
You may have to list a minimum of 10. It might be a minimum, yes.
But players, guys can write their own teammates. There can be 20 of their own teammates, and that's what it is. So it's not really. I'm not kidding when I say this. There's a much more efficient way to try to do this. It's not a big enough deal anymore for them to do it. Because if you did an online thing where you already had the names and players just had to pick their top 10 and they don't have to write anything, just something they do on their phone real quick or something like that, and some of that nature, then I think Yu-Gi-Oh is done more efficiently and effectively. But yeah, no, it's like I'm telling you, don't those lists are those. If you're trying to be like, man, I can't believe that they had such and such at 35. I promise you've already put more time into it than they did. From what I've heard over the years, you've automatically put more time into the thought process than they did.
Yes, I can absolutely back that up.
Same thing with Pro Bowl.
I was getting ready to say that the two least scientific surveys and polling in America would be the Pro Bowl selection and the NFL 100 list.
Money question number 2, Matt.
Money question number 2 from Eric. Why are the coaches hating on Smith? Can't they use him in the pass game? Why waste a pick if you're going to cut him? If you're talking about Brashard Smith, the Chiefs aren't going to cut him. Nick and I are absolutely on Team Brashard Smith here.
Well, he didn't ask if we're on Team Brashard Smith. He's just asking Eric, here's the thing you got to remember. Didn't he jam his finger or something, like just basically a couple days before the game?
Dislocated his finger apparently during a special teams drill at the end of practice on Thursday. So
I think they wanted to be cautious with that because they actually want to use him when the games matter. So they already know what he can and can't do. Like, this is what people need to understand. Just because you saw them in the game doesn't mean the coaching staff's having the same experience you are, or the same experience Matt and I are having. Because when Matt and I are watching the preseason game, there's not a lot that's happened there that Matt and I haven't seen over days stacked together at training camp or mini camp or OTA. So when people are like, hey, are you surprised by such and such? No, you got to remember, we got like 20 different days under our belt. Like, I understand this is your first, this is kind of your first attempt to see it, or, you've seen a couple of videos on Twitter here and there. So I totally get that. That's why I don't knock anybody on it. I'm just trying to help remind people reference point wise why we're not really surprised by things.
And I mean, I don't normally necessarily, buy into the conspiracy theories about teams hiding things, although there are occasionally times when I do buy into the conspiracy of teams hiding things during the preseason. There was the one play where Brashard Smith was split out, and I was like, oh, here, we're going to see it. We're going to see what everybody's been seeing at training camp. You split out Brashard Smith, and you get a mismatch on him, and then you throw the ball to him. And then they brought him back in to block, and of course, he picked up the block, which I was actually very impressed about. But the Chiefs seemed, Nick, to be going out of their way to show any of the elaborate passing situations in which they have tried to. I mean, even the one time that they threw him the ball was in the most conservative of ill-conceived screenplays with the third team blocking.
you don't for people right now, what I want to tell you, you don't put anything on tape right now that gives the Chargers DC 3 weeks to come up with an answer.
And Luttrell and Casey Harold have just infinitely increased our income for
yours.
Nick, I'm always going to find a way to try to treat you when you're not looking. to thank you for being a part of this and for your kind community service to the Kansas City region.
Dang, man.
The kids need you, Nick.
Oh boy.
So
all right, I got time for a couple more because I got to get up at 5 a.m. and
Casey Harold, thank you very much.
And we'll see if you get up at 5 a.m. too.
Yeah, that's early. I gotta be on the radio at 8 o'clock too. So that's I gotta do a little double duty there tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember where we left off there, so I don't miss anyone. Oh my gosh, there's a bunch of. We might as well go with the first of many Carson Steele questions. Pano, thoughts on Carson Steele? Sounds like his days are numbered with the new running back from Arizona that you just signed. Where's the Nick Jacobs shirts, Nick? I mean, you're wearing a shirt today. Is that a Roman Empire shirt?
Yeah, it's a Roman Empire State of Mind shirt. Yeah, I don't know what shirts you're referencing.
I think what we're talking about is I think we're just talking about your playful shirts that we all enjoy.
I think Pono's talking about a specific shirt that he can buy for merch. Yeah, I mean, I really don't know about Carson Steele. I mean, we'll see what happens this week, and we'll see what happens next week. And I don't read anything into the new running back coming here from Arizona. I'm just gonna tell you bluntly, guys. I think the running back room is Pacheco, and I think it's going to be Kareem Hunt, and I think that there's Brashard Smith, but I feel like they still need something else, and they either need Elijah Mitchell or Carson Steele or somebody to step up, and if they don't, I think they got to use one of the guys that's on the bubble to try to trade for a running back to add another fast, speedy running back to the mix.
Yeah, and I'm still not sure what I'm going to do with Carson Steele. I'm very on the bubble with Carson Steele myself because I can't quite figure out what the Chiefs are doing and what they're thinking with him either. But we do have a couple of more weeks to try and see what's going on. So, Major Chip Hazard wants to know, and you may be best suited to answer this so far, Nick. Is the kingdom better than the franchise, or are they just too different?
So Chip, the franchise is done by the organization. So like, you're not gonna you can't you have to be mindful of how you package that and how you showcase that. You want to give the fans experience. You want to let the fans kind of get to see who the players are and what they, how they are behind when they're not wearing the helmet. And then you also have them mic'd up to a certain extent. And, you give fans and media access to be able to watch that. And it's a well done series. It's an Emmy winning series. Like, it's a quality storytelling thing because that's what Rob El Reno and 65 TPT does. So it's just they're under a different aspect than what ESPN is. So to try to compare the two, they're two different things. They're two different goals. And like ESPN can be a little more, ESPN can leave cursing in. The franchise for the Chiefs can't. You're getting every single person that's doing this getting paid by the Chiefs organization. You're not leaving cursing in there. I'm sorry. Like, that's just not that's not the reality of that. So yeah, Chip. I mean, they're both enjoyable. That's where we'll leave that at.
There you go. Jimmy's, if the Saints are sellers around the trade deadline because they're terrible and they shop Jay Reed, are the Chiefs buyers? I mean, I can't imagine that happening just because, Justin Reed just got there. He's going to be the heart and soul of that team for a couple of more years. I mean, they're hoping to build around a guy like Justin Reed. And his contract, not real inducive to a trade for, but the Saints are not allergic to dead money, but
they're not allergic to it.
I mean, they've never seen a dead money amount that they won't take, but I don't think they'd like to. I think Jay Reed's somebody they'd like to hold on to for a while.
Yeah, they signed him for a reason, and they signed him to a 3-year, essentially a 2-year contract. It's 3. Well, it's weird the way they set the contract up, but the trade deadline's a long time away between here and now. So let's let the season unfold. Let's let the first 8 games unfold before we go back to this hypothetical situation. That's 2 months away right
now. Linda, Nick did a great job on explaining 1 tech, 3 tech, etc. Now I need to understand the practice squad and when our players are exposed to being picked up by another team and when they are safe.
No player is ever safe unless they're on the 53. If you're on the 53-man roster, or you're on IR, or you're on PUP, you belong to the organization. The organization owner rights, and nobody can take that. When a player's on practice squad, they are free to sign with any organization anywhere else at any time. So, but normally the player or the agent will give the organization a heads up to let them know such and such team is interested. Or maybe the organization gives the other organization a heads up and lets them know that they're interested, just out of courtesy potentially. And then the player has to decide, do they want to go to the 53 and get themselves an opportunity like Bailey Zappi did last year when he went to the Browns and went there. And then Zappi magically ended up back with the Chiefs because he realized with the Browns, he got to experience the Browns organization versus the Chiefs organization. Very different. And then Zappi came back here to actually try to improve as a player, where it was not going to happen in Cleveland. So any guy who gets put on the practice squad, a team can go pick up. So it's just if you want to be able to retain somebody and another team comes calling to put a guy on their 53, then you have to make room to get them on the 53 if that's how you want to guarantee that they stay with you.
And this question brought up, and I completely forgot about this. I guess it was a COVID era, was the practice squad protections, wasn't it? That you could protect a couple of players each week from another team being able to sign.
But I think that was only during COVID, though.
I think you're
that,
right. I don't remember anybody protecting any practice squad players since then. There's a couple of weird ones. You know, if you've got a roster exemption for an international player, there are some protections there. There's also a rule about you can't sign a player from a practice squad if you're getting ready to play that team. You can't like if you can't sign them like I think it's the 2 weeks before. So the Chargers getting ready to play the Chiefs, they can't sign somebody from the Chiefs practice squad, you know, in the 2 week period before that. You know, so there are some squirrely little rules, but essentially, yeah, no, I mean, if you're on a practice squad, team comes calling, you can always protect the player. You can offer them a spot on the 53, and they don't have to take it. They're going to probably go with whatever they think is the best offer. And a lot of times, hey, guys are going to take spots on the 53. I know a handful of instances where players have turned down spots on 53s to stay on a practice squad somewhere else because they just feel like that there's an opportunity there and they didn't want to leave. But more than often than not, I mean, if you get a chance to be on a 53, you're going to take it. All right, Nick, I know you need to get out of here, so I will make this the last question for you. From Steven. Why does Spags hate speed rushers? Does he hate speed rushers? And or FAU and Joshua Uche evidence of that? Thoughts?
Yeah, I don't consider them speed rushers, so I don't. Yeah, I think Steve Spagnuolo has a certain type of defensive end. He wants them to be able to be solid against the run or good against the run. Wants them to be versatile so they can line up in different spots along the defensive line and have them be good at, you know, twists and stunts and things of that nature. And so you need to be a lot of different things. And if you're not able to be that, you're not going to see the field.
And I think with those two particular players, Felix, we've discussed, you know, the square peg round hole possibility. Joshua Uche, I mean, I just think it might have been square peg round hole too. He's a 3-4 linebacker, undersized, that the idea was to bring him in that maybe he could be a chess piece for Steve Spagnuolo. And I think they just learned that not everybody can pick up the defense as quickly as some others. We've seen guys, I mean, and oddly enough, I mean, same team. I mean, Mike Pennell came in midseason from Kansas to Kansas City after washing out in New England. And Mike Pennell came into this team and fit like he'd been there for 5 years. Joshua Uche comes in from New England and it looked like it just never synced together. So you just never know how things are going to work out. Not every player fits in every system. And to your point, Nick, there are guys faster than both of those guys
that are already on the roster.
Yeah,
and we're on the roster when they were on the roster.
All right, but Nick, I won't expose you to any more questions if you need to get out of here. So
yeah, I gotta wake up at 5 a.m. man. You do too.
I do too. So
okay. I go by now. I go
right,
by in the car, as Steve Count would say. I go by.
You're the best, Nick. Thank you, my friend. All right. A few more questions. I'm going to try and go through them. So we won't be here until 9:30 tonight. I promise that. But I want to make sure that everybody can get their questions answered if we can. Luttrell, did Clark influence the FAU pick? I don't think that necessarily Clark influenced the pick in the nature, and this is just my opinion and an observation, no hardcore reporting on this. I don't think that I've never gotten the indication that Clark, said, hey, he's a local kid, pick him, anything of that nature. Did Brett Veach probably feel a little obligated to take a pick in that draft, in that spot, because the draft was in Kansas City and the organization did not want to trade out of that pick? I will forever go to the grave believing that. I think that whether it was spoken or unspoken, and obviously there was joking about it being spoken before the draft, and there was a little downplaying after it. But come on, I mean, you can imagine what would have been the reaction had the Chiefs traded out of that pick with the draft in Kansas City. I just don't think it's going to happen. So I think the Chiefs ended up taking the player that they liked the most at that point. FAU wasn't necessarily a bad pick. Was it just a tough situation? Sure. Could the same thing have happened if, I mean, I do believe that probably the two players that probably should have been on the Chiefs board at that spot, maybe in place of or alongside FAU for the consider, was Sam Laporta and Michael Mayer. I've gotten no indication that the Chiefs were serious about taking a tight end in that draft in that situation. I mean, I firmly believe that at that spot, if you asked Brett Veach what his draft board was at that point, I firmly believe that the best player on their board at that point was probably Rashee Rice. I do not believe that they were going to take Rashee Rice in the first round. I think the red flags, the problems, I think there was no interest in taking him in the first round. They would love to have gotten him in the second, and they did get him in the second. If they didn't take FAU and they were able to trade out of that spot, I still think they end up with FAU and Rashee Rice. They just get FAU a little bit later. Maybe they take it differently. Maybe they take Rashee Rice first in the second round, and if they get a second round pick, maybe they circle back later and get FAU then. I don't know if the players would have ended up differently. I just think that FAU going in the first round, I think it affected his psyche. I really do. I mean, I obviously it affected the expectations on him, and remember, he's still a really young kid. I mean, I'm not sold that he hasn't given up. So let's see what happens. Pano, aren't picks 20 through 32 considered second round picks? Yeah, FAU and like Sky Moore just don't have it. I mean, we've talked about this before because Brett Veach will often say it. I mean, the Chiefs never have first round grades on 20 players. And it's usually in the teens, anywhere from, I mean, I think one year they legitimately had like 12 first round grades, and another year, I think the highest I ever heard was maybe 17 or 18. They usually just don't have 20 players that they have first round grades on. And most teams are like that. It's just, different players. There's a wide variance. I mean, every team's got different schemes. So certain players are not going to be high on another team's board. I mean, if you're talking about a 3-4 edge rusher versus a 4-3 and what your coordinator runs, you're going to be looking for something different. Every year you're looking for something different. You may not have certain wide receiver on your board because maybe you're looking for a speed guy and this is more of a possession receiver. Maybe if you're set at left tackle, let's face it, Chiefs, if Josh Simmons is their guy, they're not going to have a left tackle in their top 15 that they're serious about for a while now. I mean, that's just like the Chiefs don't have quarterback in their top 15 picks right now because they're not taking a quarterback in the first round. So they're not scouting those first round quarterbacks very seriously. I mean, they're looking at them and saying, hey, those guys are nice. And hey, if one of them falls into the second or third round, maybe you consider it. But yeah, I mean, you're right. And so for a lot of teams, I mean, if you get to, and Trent McDuffie's the great example. If you get into the low 20s and a player that you've got a first round grade on is still around, you're going to go get them. If anything after 20, there's a player that you've got a first round grade on, you go get them. Josh Simmons is a really interesting example because the Chiefs had a first round grade on him, aside from the injury. And so for them to be able to get him where they did and with the injury discount, I mean, that was why it was an acceptable risk for them because yeah, you're right. I mean, you really, if you think of those later first round picks as legitimately second round picks like they are, I think you have more reasonable expectations. And that's why I still think that Clyde was probably a little bit of an expectation problem too. But again, I take Brett Veach and Andy Reid at their credit that they really like Clyde. And if Clyde doesn't have the illnesses and the injuries that he had, maybe things work out differently. Again, maybe the exact same thing with Clyde. The Chiefs wanted to trade out of that spot, and they would have been fine trading out of 32 back into the second round and still getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But if Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the 38th pick in the draft instead of a first rounder, do things go work out differently for him? It's entirely possible. I mean, being a first round pick can be a psyche. So I don't know. Jimmy, is somebody launching a smear campaign against me? I hope I didn't imply that. I don't think anybody is, but thank you for the kind words, Jimmy. You are always the best. All of you are all the best. I always appreciate the kind words. You are much too kind. Those of you like Luttrell and hey, Susan Eric with the questions, and Casey Harold with just the super chat for the super contribution for the fun of it. You are extremely kind, and that is extremely grateful. Yeah, Casey Chiefs Job 12. Yeah, I guess that was on Apple. I did not watch that. I mean, I guess I just wasn't too enthused about having to watch the Patriots dynasty. So I still have echoes of the 2017 season opener when I had to watch the Patriots rehearse before that game against the Chiefs in the season opener. Their Super Bowl celebration about 15 times. So I feel like I've gotten all of the Patriots dynasty that I need in my system for many years to come. Let's see. Here's the thing that Nick, like I said, Nick never knows, is just that all the questions come in like the first half hour, and then there's not that many more. So then I get to move very quickly. Alicia, is there something weird going on with Brashard Smith? Why did they sign another running back? I heard something about Dave Toub being critical of him and not returning punts, etc. Is he not a good locker room fit? I'll be honest, Alicia. I keep getting these questions about, concerns that maybe Brashard Smith is getting cut or any issues like that. I do not see anything of that nature, and I know that there are some concerns with Brashard that are just rookie concerns because, and hey, when he made that fair catch on the punt, I thought it was an odd decision. I was wondering what Dave Toub thought about it. And Dave Toub, obviously, I mean, if you're going to catch the ball at like the 4-yard line, you probably just need to run it in a preseason game. You don't need to be making a fair catch, certainly not inside your 10. The right call in a normal game is to let that ball go into the end zone. And Dave Toub may very well have said, "Hey, Brashard, whatever you do, just go ahead and catch the punt." He just made the wrong decision about making a fair catch. He should have either returned that thing or let it go into the end zone. That's not critical. I mean, that's just a rookie mistake. But no, and honestly, Aisha, I mentioned this at the top of the show. I think that, bringing in Michael Wiley, who was most recently with Washington before he got released, I think that has more to do with just not being completely happy with maybe the number 3 running back. Brashard Smith is a work in progress, and the Chiefs knew that was a possibility because he only played 1 year at running back in college. So there's a lot for him to still learn. He's got some things to work on. There is zero doubt about that. He's a very polished pass catcher. He's going to be able to do some things for this team catching the football, whether it's out of the backfield, whether it's split out. He's actually been a more mature blocker than I ever expected him to be at this point. There's an upside there. But no, Brashard Smith, I've completely believe he's making this team. I've got no indication that there's any locker room fit problem at all. I mean, unless it's just being hidden very well at this point. I mean, I've heard nothing but good things about Brashard Smith. Dave Toub's the only other real criticism of him has been that he runs like a wide receiver. So he runs a little bit upright. He carries the ball a little high. For a returner, they would like for him to have a lower center of gravity, protect the football lower so that there's less risk of a turnover. That's the concern right there. But no, I mean, this guy's got big playability. Once he gets some experience, he may be a very effective running back. I mean, if you told me that in 2 years from now they moved Brashard Smith to receiver full time, if this was ended up being like a DeAnthony Thomas type situation, I wouldn't be surprised. And honestly, if you said that Brashard Smith had a DeAnthony Thomas kind of career, I wouldn't say that's a problem. I mean, Anthony Thomas was a pretty good player for this team. So I haven't seen it and I haven't heard it. Like I said, I mean, there's some rookie concerns with Brashard, things that he needs to clean up, things that he needs to get better at. But I see nothing that makes me think that Brashard Smith's not going to be on this team. Casey Harold, and I let Nick go. Casey, I'm so sorry, Harold. What are some things that we should be watching during the Seahawks game? I mean, again, not a lot of game planning going on with this, so there might be a little. The Chiefs did a little bit of game planning this week. I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure how much of that was Seahawks related, how much of it was probably Chargers related. It was probably a lot more Chargers than Seahawks. But once again, I just want to see the rookies and some of the guys in new spots and how they're fitting in. You should see. We'll hear from Andy Reid what his expected plan is for the starters and for everybody in this game. I would expect that you're going to see an extended run from the offensive line. So hopefully that offensive line is going to get a few drives, maybe into the second quarter. I'd like to see, obviously, Josh Simmons and Kingsley Suamataia get as much work as they can. Interested to see, anybody else that pops up in the first half that maybe you're not expecting. Like I mentioned, like the Marlon Tuipulotos of the world. One thing certainly you don't want to see about watching for, you don't want to see any injuries. You don't want to see any mistakes. You want to see guys out there making plays. And but honestly, what things I'm going to be watching for against the Seahawks haven't changed a lot since what I was looking for against Arizona. It's going to be the same kind of things. I want to see how Josh Simmons and Kingsley Suamataia look. I want to see how the first team offense, comes out. If they can put together another drive, we'll see how many, drives that Patrick Mahomes gets. If Andy Reid wants to have Mahomes out there for 2 drives and then Gardner Minshew takes over for a couple of drives with the first team, no problems here. Just like I said, I'd like to see a little bit more time for the first team offensive line to see how they work and get along. And then after that, it's going to be rookies. I want to see, more of Jeff Bossa. I want to see Noel Williams and how they respond and kind of getting their second action. And if you see some steps forward, would love to see Brashard Smith return a kick. I mean, whether it's a kick return, punt return, just let him get a chance and see what happens. That could go a long way towards obviously deciding his role, Nico's role, maybe where Jason Brownlee and Tyquan Thornton fits in. A lot of stuff there. Hey, Albert, I want to see Oladokan be the number 3 quarterback. I'm kind of over the Bailey Zappi experience. I mean, I'm kind of ready for Chris Oladokan to get his due. I don't try to let any fan side. I mean, I'll admit Casey Harold, I'm more going to have players that I just have an affinity for because they're good dudes. They've been good to me. They're good teammates. They impress me. Chris Oladokan's one of those dudes because he works so hard. I see him in the locker room every time that we're in there. I see him and he's just working his butt off. He's always taking notes. He's going over things. I mean, everybody else is having lunch and Chris Oladokan's there at his locker, like diagramming plays and going through and looking at, scout team reports and doing it, all of this. So you feel for the guys who work as hard as they do and put in that work. So, and Chris is a good guy. So that's why, I want the best for him. I try not to root for anybody. I'm trying to be objective here, but I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be human and tell you that there's guys who crack through and that you want good things to happen to them because they're pretty good people. So, Albert, any update on the McDuffie extension? I saw the conversation that Trent had with Kay Adams, and that was probably the most telling conversation at any point. I don't know how much truth and reality to it there was, or it was just some confidence on McDuffie's part, talking about how that there was some conversation going forward. That came up today with Chris Shea, assistant general manager, who does a lot of the works on the contracts and the salary cap. And Chris did not get into the specifics, but reiterated once again what the organization's goal is. It's to draft good players and to try and retain them if you can. And McDuffie fits into that category. So I'm not terribly concerned. I still think there's a possibility that it could be a matter of time. It could be a longer matter of time for McDuffie. I don't think it's necessarily anything that's imminent. Maybe it is. I mean, maybe we're going to find out, later on this week, there's a deal that's done out of the blue, out of nowhere. But it could still take a while. I still think there's a lot of motivation and reasons for McDuffie and his team to get a deal done sooner than later, because he is going to be so underpaid the next couple of years. Even the franchise tag, for 2027 could keep him off the market and keep him from free agency until 2028. So that's why I feel like an extension for him still makes a ton of sense, but doesn't necessarily seem like there's anything imminent, even though Trent did seem to express a little bit of confidence. So, hey, KCDC, hey, if you can get an undrafted free agent that will play and work as hard as Mike Caliendo does and be that kind of influence, those are guys you need. You need undrafted guys that have that kind of heart. So yes, I will back that up with a straight face. Every team needs a Mike Caliendo. He's one of those dudes. If you can find an undrafted guy that can come in and give you some, just solid play, but most importantly, is a solid teammate without making a ton of money. I mean, that's what allows you to win championships. I mean, that's what allows you to pay money to a lot of other people. So I can definitely say that with a straight face. Infopocalypse, hey, you know what? That's a legitimate point. I do think that's defensive tackle is an area that I'm not sure is the strongest. I feel like it's a better position than I anticipated going into this camp. But I'm still have some concerns with it because, while I think Omar Norman-Lott's going to be a good player, as a rookie, there's no guarantee. Mike Pennell's a nice player, but I think, you're hoping to get 20 good snaps out of Mike Pennell a game playing the run. And at his age, with his mileage, that's a reasonable expectation. Jerry Tillery's a nice player. He's a rotational piece, but hey, can Marlon Tuipulotu be another rotational piece for you? Is Fabian Lovett? I mean, we haven't really seen any of those guys step up and be that. And you haven't known quantity in Colin Saunders. So I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it. I just don't know financially if it would make sense for the Chiefs, but I don't think it's going to happen. But hey, Colin was a great teammate. So I'm the Chiefs. I would never say no to that. Brian, how is Tooney not good enough? And suddenly Caliendo is a winner. Y'all are nuts. I don't know if me are nuts or everybody else is nuts. I mean, once again, it comes down to how you're going to spend your money. And you are never, I mean, as much as, hey, Joe Tooney's a Hall of Famer in my book. I mean, you're never going to find anybody bigger admirer of Joe Tooney. I mean, he is the Terminator to me for a reason. I mean, he was sent from the future to protect quarterbacks and block for the run. But you just can't pay guys that old that much money. It just never ends well. And hey, if the Chiefs, if they made the right decision with Josh Simmons and with Kingsley Suamataia, it's going to be the right move. I mean, I'll be interested to see what happens with Tooney in Chicago. I mean, they need a leader, so maybe that will be enough. There's no doubt. I mean, bless his heart, Joe Tooney is entering that part of his career where he's going to be on the downward side. And, coming off the injury, I thought he played extremely well coming off of the pectoral injury last year. So kudos to him. But the math and the science of it all would say that Joe Tooney's best football is behind him, and you just can't pay players, based on what they've done in the past. You got to pay them for what they're going to be doing going forward. And he's got more value to Chicago as a team leader, honestly, than he does to the Chiefs, because Chiefs don't really need his leadership anymore. I mean, they've kind of moved on. They don't need they don't need the 27-year-old Joe Tooney as a player. They need a cheap, affordable option as a player. And if Kingsley isn't as good, I mean, I wouldn't, hey, Kingsley's not going to be as good as Joe Tooney. There's just the reality of it. You're also paying him a fraction of what Joe Tooney is making. So now that you can pay other guys, so that you can pay Creed Humphrey and you can pay the Trey Smiths, it's a trade-off. And is every one of those moves going to win? Hey, 2020 hindsight's going to tell you, but I think it's just a reality. I mean, that's you kind of had to move on. And I think Caliendo does have a Super Bowl ring. He was there for it. I saw it. He's got him on his fingers. You're Jackie anointing me as the rightful heir. Hey, anybody wants to be a fan of Robert Tonyan, feel free to go for it. I will not begrudge anyone. I went back to see when I could really claim myself to being on the bandwagon, and I know I mentioned him quite a bit in my notebooks from the rookie mini camp, but I didn't single him out specifically in any of my players to watch. So I know I mentioned him every single day in the notebook because he was making plays, but I did go for other players instead. Although I will stand by the players that I noted in my players to watch. So I was pretty proud of that. When I went back to look, it's like, dang, yeah, I kind of noted some guys that are making some plays now. So I'm happy about that. Let's see. We should be getting close to final call here. So if anybody else has any final questions, feel free to fire them down. I thought it wasn't going to go overtime to 9:30, but dang, we're starting to head on this. Yeah, Jackie, I didn't. I looked like there were 3 different kinds of ice cream sundaes on there. I just wanted. Are there 3 different kinds of A&W sundaes? Is it just one? Is it all mixed together? Is it? I'm confused. I'm going to Hy-Vee to check it out. Don't get me wrong. So I mean, we'll clarify this, Jackie. I got questions. So. I know, Brian, the high fructose corn syrup. I mean, I can't have the high fructose corn syrup. I can't have the stuff in the Gatorade Zero. I can't win for losing these days, Brian. Oh, favorite barbecue sauce, Jackie. Okay, here's the thing. I'm a loyal Northlander. So my favorite barbecue sauce is the Smokehouse. Get that at Hy-Vee as well. You get the Smokehouse barbecue sauce, also the Smokehouse baked bean sauce, fantastic. I mean, I'll also say, old school classic Gates is a really good barbecue sauce too. I'm not as big a fan of Joe's barbecue sauce as some others, but if they became a sponsor, I would absolutely be a huge fan of Joe's Kansas City barbecue sauce. If I need to get a sponsor, anybody, what I need to get is Char Bar. I really do like Char Bar and their sauces. Those are really good. Guys are all crack ups. I love it. Albert, I have not read the GQ article yet. If you were a betting man, do you think this is Travis's last season no matter what? I'm not going to say no matter what, but I can see this being Travis's last season. I haven't necessarily seen anything from him that's indicating that. I mean, I don't see a reflective or wistful necessarily Travis Kelce who's going out there and just saying, oh well, this might be my last time in a St. Joe training camp or practice. Might try and watch him a little bit closely tomorrow since it will be his last practice at St. Joe and see if he seems to have any reaction. But I'm assuming there's a really good chance that this is his last season, just simply because I think that the game's getting harder for him. I think it's hard to continue maintaining the level that he's at. I know he said that he will play until the wheels fall off, but at the same time, I think it's hard when have been as good as Travis Kelce are and has been, that if you can't be the same player that you've been, I think it's hard to continue doing that. And he's been a very physical player, and I think about him in the comparison to Tony Gonzalez, because I think, Tony went on a few more years than Travis did. But I'll be honest, I just don't know that. I don't know if Tony had to go through the beating that Travis has gone through. Travis has gone through a lot of beating. He sacrificed his body a lot for this team, so he's probably exhausted some of the mileage in that body a little bit with just the style that he plays and as physically as he plays. So I can see it's getting harder for him out there. I'm sure he feels that it's getting harder for him out there. And at the same time, I know he says he wants to play until the wheels fall off, but I don't know if Travis wants to be the kind of guy that's playing 50% of the snaps or as a part-time player. I don't know if he wants to be that. I think he wants to go out. And if the Chiefs won a Super Bowl this year, I would not begrudge Travis Kelce riding off into the sunset as a champion. I think it'd be a heck of a way to go out. So, I mean, It's hard to win a Super Bowl. We know that, but I think that'd be a fantastic way. And if you wanted to go out that way, wouldn't bother me at all. And if he walks away regardless after the season, regardless of a Super Bowl or not, I wouldn't begrudge him because he's given everything he's got to this organization over the years. Bobby with the $1 million question here. Who starts opposite McDuffie in week 1? I mean, my gut says it's probably Jalen Watson with Christian Fulton rotating in, maybe being off the bench. I could even see, if the Chiefs feel like Fulton's a better fit, maybe he's the starter. I think it's going to be one of those two guys. No reason to believe that, even with the concussion protocol, you're hoping and that Jalen Watson's back sooner than later. And like I said, he was out watching practice today. So that's usually a pretty good sign for a player that's in the concussion protocol that they're getting closer to getting cleared. It's going to be one of those two. I don't know, if the Chiefs, want to push Christian Fulton to be out there in week 1 after he's had so little of training camp, but it's going to be one of those two guys. And right now, my coin flip would probably be that it'll be Jalen Watson, but I think you're going to see a lot of Christian Fulton, and it would not surprise me if Christian Fulton fairly quickly is starting, and maybe those two guys are going to rotate a little bit. We'll see. And I don't think that there's anything that would stop the Chiefs from going with Fulton and Watson on the outside and McDuffie in the slot quite a bit. I think you're going to see that look an awful lot. You're going to see Jamari Conner, but I think that the Chiefs, as much as they love Jamari Conner, they want to move him around a little bit, not just put him in one spot. And I think you saw last year that, if you leave Jamari Conner exclusively in the slot and maybe in even some matchups that aren't favorable, I think you can get into some problems. So that's why I don't think you're going to see Trent McDuffie in the slot full time this year. I think you're going to see him in the slot more than he was last year. Back off Jamari Conner a little bit, and that's why you signed Christian Fulton, because you know that there's going to be plenty of times that you need Fulton and Watson on the outside, and Watson, and Fulton both have some injury history, so you may need some other. You're going to have some other corners during the season too. Sarah just got here. Not sure if the question was out there, but just wondering, on Friday's game, does Pat play any downs? I would expect so. Yes, Sarah. And once again, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if he played a little bit longer, played a few more series. In the 3 preseason game era, this has been kind of Andy Reid's mojo, is to let the number 1 team play a little bit more. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did get a little bit more extended playing time on Friday night, and then wouldn't expect starters for the most part to play much in the 3rd preseason game at all. We'll see if Andy changes the changes a little bit. We'll find out from him on Wednesday what his game plan is for the starters and for Patrick. But I think you'll probably see a little bit more of him than you did last week. Certainly more than you did last week in 2 basically plays. But yeah. That's at least my take there. KL368 with the super chat that I noticed only 5 minutes late. Sorry, KL. Hope you're still around. If you had final say, who would you keep for the running back, cornerback, and wide receiver positions? Okay, $1 million question here. Running back, I mean, it's Pacheco, Kareem, Brashard Smith, and right now it's tough. I mean, my gut says Elijah Mitchell, but my brain, just looking at the snaps and the way things are distributed right now, I think Carson Steele. I mean, it's a little bit of a coin toss for me, I think, as of right now. And that's obviously things could change. I mean, the Chiefs brought in Michael Wiley. Now they could bring in another running back that could change the equation. But I think those first 3 for sure. Who's going to be the 4th? You might be able to sneak a Carson Steele onto the practice squad. So maybe you go ahead and keep an Elijah Mitchell. I'm not sure the Chiefs have seen everything that they've wanted out of Elijah Mitchell, but and I'm basing this kind of what we've seen to this point. I mean, what we see in the next couple of weeks could certainly change that, as far as not only just the 2 preseason games, but the practices once the Chiefs get back to Kansas City and how things unfold a little bit. Cornerback, Trent McDuffie, Christian Fulton, Jalen Watson, Najee Johnson, Noel Williams. You're 5 for sure. Question is, if you keep I think that's did I get the 5? McDuffie, Fulton, Noel Williams, Jalen Watson. Okay, we're going to start this a third time. Trent McDuffie, Christian Fulton, Jalen Watson, Najee Johnson, Noel Williams. There's your 5. Your 6th right now would essentially be, I mean, your 6th in line would be Josh Williams. I'm just not sure that they're going to keep a 6th one, especially considering that I think you're going to be keeping Jamari Connor, Brian Cook, Jaden Hicks, Chris Roland Wallace for sure, and your safeties. You're there, you've got 9 right there. Are you going to keep a 10th defensive back? And if so, who is it going to be? Is it, Chris Roland Wallace and Jamari Connor play a little corner? So do you want a more full-time safety like a Mike Edwards? Could a Glennon Miller play themselves in the position? And Major Williams hasn't made a move yet, but he's also like another one of these guys that, hey, the Chiefs don't have a ton of free safeties. They could probably squeeze him onto the practice squad if they needed an emergency free safety, during the regular season. Based on my eyeballs today in the last couple of days at practice, I would say Josh Williams is off, Mike Edwards is on, but again, that could change a lot here over the next couple of weeks. And wide receiver, I mean, let's just say barring any injuries and barring suspension for Rashee Rice, it's Rashee, Xavier, Hollywood, Juju, Jalen Royals, I think Tyquan Thornton, and then Nico Remigio. And that's 7. That's more than I think the Chiefs really want to keep, but I think that they may have to just, with the situation with Hollywood, with the situation, and if Rashee's suspended, then that makes it easy. I mean, Rashee will go on the suspended list. You start the season with 6 receivers, your top 4, and then with Nico and Tyquan. Nico is not safe. I mean, Tyquan, I would say I'd put in like a 65% category. Nico might be 50-50, maybe even maybe a little worse than that, but I think he's about 50. I'd put him about 50-50 right now as far as holding down that last spot. So, and again, I think the order of these receivers, the corners, running backs, the order I don't think is a huge issue. I mean, there's a little tweaks. I mean, right now the Chiefs are not acting like Brashard Smith is one of their top 4 running backs. I mean, there are Elijah Mitchell's getting touches in front of him, Carson Steele's getting touches in front of him, but he's making the team. I just don't think that there's any doubt about that. But then you're going to get into the question, you can't keep 4 running backs, 4 tight ends, 7 wide receivers, and 10 offensive linemen. The math doesn't add up. So you're going to have to make some tough decisions somewhere. And that's where, to me, like I say, the toughest decisions are going to be made it's do you keep an extra wide receiver or an extra offensive lineman? Do you keep an extra tight end or an extra running back? Those are going to be the big, tough decisions for this team down the road. So it's going to be tough. Let's see. FAU is a bad pick. I can't argue with it. I mean, it hasn't been productive. I like I said, circumstances weren't great, but I can't argue with you if you want to take the other side. That's a bad pick. It hasn't worked out the way that the Chiefs wanted. Let's see, where did that get lost? I think Bobby was the last free one. And Sarah, let's see. So this was the next one about, was that Matt, was Steam and Demon about the Price Chopper? Who was the older guy who did the Price Chopper commercials for Chiefs Radio? And Nick needs to do Price Chopper instead of Hy-Vee. That was Bill Grigsby, the Prince of Parkville. Legendary Chiefs voice. Yes, much missed. Mr. Grigsby was Chiefs legend for many, many years. So, yep, Brian got it. Bill Grigsby. There you go. I have not looked at Nick Chubb yet. KCDC, he might still be available. Honestly, I think he got the better version of Nick Chubb, at least for the Chiefs, and Kareem Hunt. I mean, I don't know how much more left is in the tank for Nick Chubb, but once again, I don't think Nick Chubb is exactly what the Chiefs need. I mean, the Chiefs need a home run hitter. They need somebody that's explosive with a ton of speed, and I don't think at this point in his career Nick Chubb's got that anymore. So I think you'd be trying to find somebody else. So Eric, which roster bubble player has the greatest trade value? Honestly, it probably is Felix, just because there are teams that probably have a scheme that would fit Felix better. He's a first round pick that some other teams probably had a first round grade on as well, and would be willing to take a chance on for either a player or a pick. You're not going to get a first round pick for a former first round pick that you're giving up on. So it would be a later round pick than that, but I think that has greater trade value than, a running back that you've just signed that isn't working out and might get cut. Felix is, like I said, isn't really in danger of getting cut because he's got a guaranteed contract. So I think trade is probably about the only way he would. So if you wanted Felix, you can't really wait for him to get released and maybe try and claim him on waivers or sign him as a free agent, because he's not going to be that. I mean, the only way to get him is through a trade. Josh Williams, I think could still have some trade value, even though he was a fourth rounder. A lot of upside, a lot of physical upside, good size. I mean, there's a lot of things to like about Josh Williams. So I could see some teams that, if they feel like that's a guy that really fits their scheme that they like, maybe that's another guy that has some trade value. But I think Felix would probably be the one to me that's of the bubble players that's got the best potential trade value. Haley Harrison mentioned how different the kickoffs are because they require precision with distance like punts. Wondering what Matt Ariza isn't doing the kickoffs if that's the case. That's an interesting question because Matt Ariza's got experience with kickoffs. I would say that from a kickoff standpoint and the precision that you're asking about there, Haley, Harrison is much more precise on kickoffs than Ariza is. Ariza, I mean, he hasn't been doing kickoffs the last few years. Really hasn't done it, I don't believe, since college. So and I think we saw last year, even with punting. I mean, you take a couple of years off, and especially from a competitive environment, it does take away from your sharpness a little bit. So I think that's, Harrison's incredibly precise. I mean, he's going to probably make mistakes this year because they're going to ask him to put some kickoffs into some really tight windows. And that one the other night against Arizona was a good example of that. I mean, it was an ideal result. I don't know if it was the ideal kick because like Dave Tobe mentioned today, it was a little close to the sideline and, bad bounce, and that may go out of bounds, and you just gave Arizona the ball at the 40. But what teams they're going to have to put the ball into that landing zone, and you want to put it on the ground. You want the other team to field the ball on the ground. You don't want them to field it in the air. So it does require a lot of precision. It requires a lot of detail, and I think that's just too much for Matt Ariza. I don't think that's part of his game. His game, as far as kicking off, would be just kicking it as far as he possibly can, and I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Ariza, with his leg, he might be able to put every kickoff in the first row of the stands. But this year, that's also going to give teams the ball at the 35. So what you want to do this year is you want to put the ball in that landing zone inside the 20, in between players, so that you can force them to pick it up off the ground. And that's why, I mean, Harrison worked on that a lot last year because the Chiefs anticipated maybe doing that until they realized that it was just not worth the cost, that you were probably going to give up a little bit longer returns at times, that the average return was going to be probably out to the 30 anyway. So there wasn't really any, there wasn't a whole lot of gain to it. But now, that if you put it into the end zone, teams are going to get the ball at the 35. Now there's more motivation to put the ball in the landing zone, to make teams return it, but just not return it in the air. So it's going to take some precision, and that for that, Harrison is better at that than Ariza would be right now. Eric, should we all hope Thornton makes the team or Brownlee, who could make a bigger difference? Really good question, because I think Nick makes a great point that Brownlee may have a skill set as far as some ability to elevate for the ball for some contested catches, like that back shoulder throw that Mahomes made. Brownlee's probably better suited for that than Thornton is. Tyquan Thornton has had a really good camp, though. Consistency's been a problem for both of these guys, but I think Thornton is a little bit more of a well-rounded receiver than Brownlee. Brownlee is probably a better suited red zone target. It's probably a bit of a trade-off. So I don't know. I mean, if you're the Chiefs and you're looking to push the ball downfield and you're looking to make some big plays, Thornton is the guy that you want on this team. He is a down the field threat. He's a potential guy who can take the ball 75 yards on any play. So that's probably the guy. I think the Chiefs could use both of them. Is there room for both of them is going to be the tough question. That I don't know, and it's going to be tight. Jackie, I hope I answered your question. So Jackie, if you're around and I have not, remind me again. But I thought I did answer your question. So please let me know if I messed up and did not answer your question. So yeah, I mean, I would have been fine with taking Sam Laporta instead of Felix, and I've been fine with Michael Mayer too. I got the sense at the time that the Chiefs, for whatever reason, were just not in the market for a tight end that season, at least not that high on the board. So your mileage may vary, but yeah. And Joey Porter was another interesting possibility. I'm not sure that Porter was on the board for the Chiefs either at that spot. I think I'm not 100% certain on that. I can't say it for sure, but like I said, I mean, I think the Chiefs got the player they wanted in the second round. I think they wanted to get Rashee Rice in the second round. They got him. So there might be, I don't quietly hate you, Brian. Thank you for the LOL to at least acknowledge that. I hope you're joking. You're just fun to pick on, Brian, because some of your comments are, they just set me up well. You're a good foil, Brian, but I appreciate the fact that you always remind everybody to hit the like button. So that is always going to be one of your most outstanding traits, and that's why I need you here, Brian. Daniel, should the Chiefs trade for Asante Samuel Jr.? He's still out there. Haven't checked on his situation recently, but I mean, I'm just never, I don't know. I'm never really comfortable with additions this close to the season as far as making a big impact. Sometimes they can. I mean, but even like last year, I mean, you bring in Juju Smith-Schuster late. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is going to make a much bigger impact this year than he did last year, and obviously he came in at the very beginning of the season. I mean, it was very, very late in the process. So, what is Samuel's situation right now? Did he? I guess. Oh, he is. He's still an unrestricted free agent. What is his situation? Is he hurt? That's got to be the one thing that I always forget about with injuries or anything like that. Is he's coming back from the injury? It's really the only thing that would. I'm so brain dead on that one. Daniel. I might have to look up and see why I'm completely blanking on Samuel and why he's still out there. Still young. I mean, there's got to be, help me, people. There's got to be an obvious reason why I'm completely missing and forgetting about why Asante Samuel is still out there. Jackie, was Joe Thuney Veach's best free agent signing? I'm having a hard time coming up with a better one. I mean, all Joe Tooney did for you was win, and he just cranked out wins. And I mean, he may have saved your season last year, got you to a Super Bowl. So I'd have a hard time saying otherwise. I mean, there were other key. I mean, when the Chiefs signed Sammy Watkins, I said, hey, you're judging that signing on Super Bowls. If you win, if Sammy Watkins helps you get a Super Bowl, it's a good signing. Well, he did that, so it was a good signing. Was Tooney better? Yeah, I think I can't think of it. I'm not immediately thinking of anybody who was a better free agent signing than Joe Tooney. Just that was a beautiful signing by Brett Veach. You got to give him up for that one. Chiefs Kingdom, how do you feel about the undrafted free agent Jacoby Covington? Where do you think he'll end up at? I mean, he's been down in the third team as well, but from what I've seen and watched, I mean, I think he's got some talent. Practice squad candidate for sure. I don't know if we'll see if he clears waivers. So that's the case. I wouldn't be surprised if he'd be in that conversation. Seems like a pretty flexible guy. I've haven't watched him a ton, but I have seen him when he's been out there on the third team. And I can't say what's the best thing I can usually say about guys in that position is, do I have bad memories of them making bad plays? And with Covington, I really don't. I mean, I know there's actually been a few plays where I know that he seems to have put himself into some good positions, and third team guys don't get a lot of opportunities. So I like what I've seen so far. I mean, a practice squad would be the pinnacle for him. I mean, he's not going to make it the 53 or anything, but that would be a good spot for him. Let's see. Okay, does Joe's make Night of the Living barbecue sauce? Because I do like Night of the Living barbecue sauce. That's a good one. I do like that, and I will always buy local sauce over anything else. So, yeah, no offense to any other brands, but if I'm a local Kansas City ride or die. Although I will say there's one pseudo national. Sorry, as I sneeze. I do like the Dr. Pepper barbecue sauce, but I only like that for like dipping. So if I get the Dr. Pepper barbecue sauce, I'm not putting that on a meat or anything. I might use it as ketchup on a hamburger, and I will use it for dipping French fries, but that's about it. Although I was happy, somebody else I heard on the radio the other day, I think it may have been Sterling Holmes over at 810, is on team dipping your fries in the beans, barbecue beans. That's winning. And especially if, to me, the best two baked beans in town, Smokehouse north of the river, which I mean, I'm a Northland guy, so I'm loyal, but their beans are fantastic. Zarda's beans are really good too, but they're not as good as Smokehouse. But both of those, Yates beans are very good for this too. Dipping your fries in the beans, and Gates has those thick steak fries that are really good for dipping into your beans. So I'm just saying, if you don't dip your French fries into your baked beans, your barbecue beans, do it and thank me later. That's all I'm saying. McDuffie in the slot. Be still my beating heart. I do think you're going to see McDuffie more in the slot this year. It is not going to be full time, but you are going to see McDuffie more in the slot. John, are the Chiefs a Super Bowl team in your opinion? If not, what are they missing? I do think that the Chiefs are a Super Bowl team. I mean, obviously they have been. I don't think that they're missing a ton from last year. You've got Patrick Mahomes on offense, so right there, you've got a Super Bowl team, because you got a Super Bowl quarterback and you got a Super Bowl coach. Last year they were the 15th offense in the league. They've got a better receiving core this year. I mean, Josh Simmons is going to be a huge X factor. If Josh Simmons can help this team improve its protection for Mahomes just a little bit, that's going to make a huge difference. If this offense can go from 15, even, I mean, top 5 would probably clinch it. I mean, I think they should be better than that. I think they should be better than top 10. Top 7 is probably a realistic goal. If this team is back to being a top 3 or a top 5 offense, I mean, I think they're absolutely going to a Super Bowl, and you get a Super Bowl, you got a chance to win it. The defense, I think should be just as good as last year. The one reason why I think that they could be better is, Joe Cullen mentioned it on Tuesday that so all the days of the week start to run together for me. They had 55 sacks in 22 and 23, and they had a big step back in 24. They just weren't getting the pressure on the quarterback, wasn't getting the quarterback down. They should be better at that this year. Charles Omenihu is healthy for the beginning of the season for the first time. They're going to be fully enforced on the pass rush at the beginning of the season for the first time in a while. So I think that the pass rush should be better if that's the case. The pass defense should be better, even though they've got some questions at some places. They're going to miss Justin Reed, but I do like that their safety group. I do like their secondary. There's a lot to like there. I like the linebacker group too. If this team goes back to being one of the best pass rush teams in the league, if they can get 50 plus sacks and they're a top 7 offense, I mean, that alone, I think, would be enough to convince me that they're a Super Bowl team. I mean, we know they're a Super Bowl team, but I think it's just, I would bet on the likelihood of them going to the Super Bowl. I mean, winning it is always a crapshoot, and last year was a great example of that. You can make it, but you can have a bad day. But yes, John, I absolutely think that this team is a Super Bowl team. Nikki, anytime you can make it, Nikki, we're okay with that. I understand, we all got to work, so no problems there. We always appreciate you when you can make it in. Let's see, getting near the end. So, not related to Boomer Grigsby though, Harold. That was great to have, and yep, Griggs was the best. He was legend for many, many times. Nikki, could Harrison Buttkicker hit a 70-yarder? Yes, he absolutely could in the right conditions. Indoors, I think he probably could easily. I'm trying to remember the farthest that I've seen him take one. I want to say that, gosh, I feel like in pregame warmups one day, I saw him with the wind at his back try one from 73. And if I remember correctly, I think he had the distance. It was just wide. But I mean, anybody's anybody's going to take a shot at the record, and the record is like 66, I think now. And that kick that kid had the other night was amazing. I wish it wasn't in the preseason so it counted, but you have to have the right circumstance. I mean, you've got to have the right building, the right place, the right conditions, the right wind, or indoors, whatever it may be. And it has to be at the end of the half, because teams just aren't going to take 68, 70-yard field goal tries unless it's the last play of a half or last play of a game. So it's got to be the right circumstances. Although I thought it was really interesting, Mitch Schwartz made a comment the other day that because of some of the changes that they've made, they're putting the K-balls, the kicking balls, they're putting those in a little bit more control of the teams and the kickers. And it should be those balls should be in a little bit more favorable kicking shape. So you might see more, longer attempts this year, or at least, more success on longer kicks, but you have to have the right conditions and the right situation for anybody to hit a 70-yarder. I have no doubt that Harrison's got the leg for 70. I think he's got the leg beyond 70. It's just, got to be the right conditions, and you got to have the aim right, got to have the line. But yes, I believe he fully could do that. Jesus, do you love McDonald's hot fudge sundaes? Too bad the ice cream machine. I mean, exactly. Is the ice cream machine at McDonald's ever working? I don't think so. Although I admit I have not had a McDonald's hot fudge sundae in a long time. I did get a McDonald's ice cream cone. I think it was last year. I was coming back from the combine. I remember stopping at the McDonald's, I think in Concordia. Just need a little quick sweet treat, and that was like the first McDonald's. And I only did it because the people in front of me ordered an ice cream cone, and I was like, okay, I need some ice cream. That sounds good. But yeah, I haven't had McDonald's hot fudge. But you're right. I mean, the McDonald's ice cream machine and the shake machine never work. It's just like also anywhere you go, the icy machine never works. Always disappointing because I love a good icy too. Oh, Nikki, I don't hate the ACU crew or anything. I just didn't want to crash anybody's party. I also was busy, unfortunately, and tired, so I had that going for me too. But I'm not a hater, Nikki. I'm not a hater, Brian. I swear. Oh, thank you. Yes, the neck injury. I knew had to be an injury for Samuel. I just couldn't remember what it was. So thank you very much. Yeah, that explains it. He's gonna, and I'm assuming that Samuel, when healthy, will come back and will be landing a contract outside the Chiefs' price range. So I think you can safely eliminate that one. I mean, unless he wants to come back for league minimum with a bunch of incentives that are not likely to be earned, then I think you could do that. So we are almost caught up into the end. And talking about barbecue sauces, Zarda's Ghost Sauce isn't really very hot. I've heard some people say that, although I will add that in addition to the Thunderberry, they've also got that hot honey sauce. And I'll admit, I mean, I heard hot honey and I'm like, okay, that's going to be my sauce. But so I had the wings when they came to camp last week. I had a wing with the hot and honey and one with the Thunderberry sauce. And I like the Thunderberry better. I was not expecting to because I'm not like a raspberry chipotle kind of fan, but that thing works. So I was really impressed that I like that better than the hot and honey. Both of those I think are available. I think Terry at Zarda said the hot and honey is also available at Hy-Vee. So I endorse both of them. Yeah, Rick, I couldn't remember the yardage on that one. Yes, I have occasionally let Harrison, go out there for a kick, and then if he makes it, they end the practice early. I wonder if that might happen tomorrow for that hour and 50 scheduled practice that I'm sure everybody would like to get out of there early. No, Harrison's got a leg. He can hit from way downtown. It just needs the right circumstances. Let's see. I think we made it to the end. I think Rick got the last one there with the question about the kick. Everybody, hey, thank you very much. I did not, Albert, I apologize, manage my time as efficiently as I was supposed to tonight. Thank you, as always, for Nick for coming in. I would like to say that it's because you all had some great questions that just kept me talking. Therefore, we didn't get it off to a great end as expected. So hopefully, if anybody made it through the whole 245, I salute you. Thank you very much. And if you want to watch this back later at 1.5 speed, I don't blame you there either. Can you repeat everything you just said? The great thing, Rick, is that it is saved on this magical thing called YouTube, so you can go back and listen to the whole thing from the beginning if you want to. Everybody, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us. I'm not gonna lie. Camp's been hard. I've had a couple of just personal setbacks during camp that don't need to worry about. I'm not no health problems, no dangers of any kind like that. It just hasn't necessarily been my greatest camp of all time. But one of the things that's encouraged me and helped me get through all of this has been the support that everybody, and at least I got one victory against Harrison Butker, and Harrison kicking my butt as far as being the first person to practice every day wasn't even, wasn't one of the big setbacks. I mean, that was tough. But at least I got my one win, and I tip my hat because, hey, if Harrison wants to be out at practice every day at 8:00, for a 9:15 practice. I can't keep up with that. So Harrison, you're always going to win that battle. But I just always appreciate the kindness and all of you have the graciousness to follow along, listen here. Truly appreciate it. All the kind words on the comments, even some of the haters. I enjoy that too. So no worries. Just be nice to Nick because he's here on his day off. So I always, and this is, like I said, this is community service for Nick. So, he's doing this for the kids. Everybody, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Don't have a lot going on this week. I mean, we've got the training camp ending on Wednesday, day off for the Chiefs on Thursday. Friday will be the preseason game. Then after that, the Chiefs move back to Kansas City. Nick and I have not worked out for sure when we will be doing 41 is the mic. I don't know if we're going to be recording that on Saturday or Sunday. We'll let you know. We'll mention up on social media once we figure out when we're going to be doing that. So if you follow us on Twitter, Blue Sky, anything like that, we'll try to let you know. Probably put it out in the comment on a community post here on the YouTube channel as well, so you'll know when to expect it in your streams. But appreciate it. Another great week for the podcast. Appreciate everybody who has supported 41 is the mic. You're all the best. I will stop just going on about how much I love y'all, all you guys and gals, for all the support that you've given me, Chiefs Digest, Nick, all of us. Truly appreciate it. Like I said, there's going to be some good changes going on with Chiefs Digest here over the next few weeks before the beginning of the season, hopefully during the season as well. For those of you who weren't here at the beginning, I've talked about the fact that we may be splitting. I think I'm actually definitely splitting up the Tuesday Q&A into two shows. So we'll be doing one with Nick on Tuesdays, one later in the week, maybe on Thursdays. We'll check and see about times. If you've got suggestions about times and things you'd like to see in a second Q&A, let me know. I love being able to incorporate all of your comments and you dictate the conversation. It's a lot easier for me than to come up with a bunch of ideas. I like to listen to your ideas and talk about what you want to hear. And maybe with a second show, we can also incorporate some other guests and other voices that you can get to hear from. Maybe some people that you don't get to hear from very often and would like to, and answer some questions. So always looking for some feedback. If you've got any thoughts, what you'd like to see at a second Q&A during the week, fire away. You can do it obviously in the live conversations, but you can also do it in the comments on YouTube. I think I've covered everything else. Hey, as always, make sure you hit the bell so that you get notified when we've got new videos coming out. I will, before going to bed tonight, I'm going to have the coaches' videos up from today in case you haven't seen those, so you can check out what the assistant coaches and what Chris Shea and Terry Bradway out of the front office had to say today. A lot of fun stuff in St. Joe. Like I said, we'll be back next week. That's with 41 is the mic on the weekend. Probably won't start breaking up the Q&A for another week or two. Probably circling a little bit of the week of the 26th, kind of figuring out and working on how we're going to be handling the 26th, which is just 2 weeks away. It's going to be the final roster cuts. We'll figure out how we're going to do that, and because usually we do a live stream in the afternoon once we know what the roster cuts are all as they're coming in. So hope that all makes sense. Thanks for listening to me blathering on. Yeah, Jackie, I was saying that I'm probably going to be doing two shorter Q&As, so like one on Tuesday, one on another day of the week, so probably about an hour each. Probably end up being what it will look like. And we'll see if there's some other things we can come up with that hopefully will be enjoyable content for you here, not only on the Chiefs Digest YouTube channel, but on ChiefsDigest.com as well. So everybody have a great week. We will join you back here. I will, at least, if there's any breaking news, anything going on. Otherwise, I will see some of you. I know you watch Locked On Chiefs. If you're a viewer over there, I'll be on their post-game show after the game Friday night, and then 41 is the mic over the weekend, and then we'll be back here next Tuesday. Everybody have a